You lie back, eyes half closed, letting the night stretch out before you. The sky above appears still, painted with familiar constellations that have shone for centuries. Yet if you listen closely with the inner ear of imagination, you notice that stillness is an illusion. The universe, vast and ageless, refuses to be silent. It hums, it stirs, it expands. Each passing moment is not just a tick of time, but a widening, a subtle stretching that pulls galaxies farther apart. The stars you see above you are not fixed lanterns, but travelers drifting away on a sea of space that never rests. You imagine the night as a great blanket, black and endless, spread across the heavens. To the eye, it feels stable, comforting, but beneath its calm surface, the fabric itself is being tugged, gently yet relentlessly. The spaces between stars, between galaxies, grow a little wider with every breath you take. Expansion is not an event of long ago. It is now. It is constant. Even as you drift towards sleep, the cosmos stretches quietly around you. This is the paradox of the night sky. It appears eternal, yet it is never the same from one instant to the next. Light takes time to travel, and so every glimmer you see is already over. Each star sends you a memory, rather than a present moment. The sky above you is a museum of luminous echoes, carefully preserved and displayed. The stillness you trust is, in truth, a dance too slow for the eye to capture. You breathe in, softly, as if in rhythm with that hidden expansion. The rise and fall of your chest mirrors the rise and fall of distant galaxies. Both are natural motions, beyond conscious control. Your lungs expand with oxygen. The universe expands with time. Just as you cannot command your heartbeat to stop, the cosmos cannot pause its stretch. It is the most patient rhythm there is. For centuries, people believed the universe was fixed, that the stars were permanent lights nailed into a celestial dome. But the deeper humanity peered, the more it found that rest was an illusion. Space itself behaves like an ocean, its waves slow and invisible. The galaxies are like boats, drifting not because of their engines, but because the sea beneath them swells. Imagine standing on a raft, surrounded by other rafts, all seeming still. Then slowly the water rises and spreads, pushing each vessel away from the others. No one raft is moving on its own, yet all separate, carried by the water. That is what the universe does with galaxies. You picture the Milky Way, your cosmic home, floating in this invisible tide. Its spiral arms glimmer, its stars burn, yet the entire galaxy drifts farther from its neighbors. Andromeda, though bound to one day collide with the Milky Way, is an exception. Most others move away, as though reluctant companions fading into the distance. You imagine the quiet sorrow of separation, the inevitability of distance that no bridge can close. Expansion writes loneliness into the universe. Yet there is beauty in this movement. Expansion is not chaos, but order in disguise. It means that creation is not finished, that the cosmos still grows like a tree unfurling its branches. The further you look, the more of its past you glimpse, light from billions of years ago, arriving just now to brush your eye. The stars are storytellers, each beam a sentence that took eons to write. They speak of motion, of restlessness, of a universe that has never once stopped. You let yourself drift into this story, imagining space as a cradle. The galaxies are children gently rocked apart, each following a path carved by forces unseen. You rest inside the cradle too, your body made of stardust, your heartbeat echoing the quiet insistence of expansion. You are not separate from this motion, you belong to it. You are both an observer and a participant, stretched along with the very fabric you study. Scientists too once lay beneath the same sky and wondered. They watched carefully, collecting the light of stars through glass and silver, through mirrors and machines. They thought gravity should slow the expansion, pulling galaxies gently back, like a lullaby urging a restless child towards stillness. But the evidence whispered otherwise. Instead of slowing, the galaxies moved faster, as if pushed by a hand too soft to see. This discovery changed everything. What kind of universe grows restless instead of restful? What kind of force pushes rather than pulls? This is the stage upon which dark energy enters, a hidden lullaby, woven into the fabric of existence. It does not shine, It does not burn. It cannot be bottled or touched. Yet it hums through the cosmos, steady and unrelenting. It makes expansion accelerate, a song growing louder as time moves forward. Though invisible, its presence is undeniable, like the hush of wind in trees at night. You do not see the wind, yet you know it is there from the sway of branches. In the same way dark energy is known by the sway of galaxies. You close your eyes and imagine dark energy as a tide beneath your body, lifting, stretching, carrying you with infinite gentleness. It is not threatening, not frightening, but inevitable. Like sleep, it arrives whether you resist or not. It smooths the wrinkles of space. It widens the gaps. It sings in silence. And as you listen, you realize that the universe's refusal to sleep is itself a kind of lullaby. For in its restless expansion lies a rhythm steady enough to cradle you. The night is deep, and you float inside it. Galaxies whisper their slow departure. Stars beam their ancient tales, and dark energy hums beneath it all. The universe is never still, but in that ceaseless motion, there is peace. Motion without hurry, change without rush. You drift with it, feeling both small and infinite. The cosmos is restless, but you, within its embrace, can finally rest. And as you sink further into that rest, you wonder, if space itself stretches like fabric, what does it feel like to be carried upon that fabric, to sense its threads beneath you, moving ever so slowly out? The thought lingers softly. If the universe itself stretches without end, what is this fabric made of? And how can something unseen keep unfolding forever? You picture space as a fabric, not woven from thread, but from the quiet distance between things. It feels soft to the mind's touch, a gentle cloth laid beneath galaxies. When you breathe in, you imagine that fabric breathing too. When you breathe out, you sense a small release, like a sheet settling after wind. The motion is so slow that daily life cannot notice it, yet it is steady and everywhere at once, turning the night into a place that stretches even while you rest inside it. To understand it, you let yourself become very small, a speck resting on that cloth. At this scale, you do not see stars or clusters, only the fabric itself. It undulates like a calm sea at midnight, black water carrying pale reflections. The undulation is not a wave that travels, it is a tide that lifts every boat at once. Galaxies are those boats. They drift apart not because they row, but because the sea beneath them opens, widening every lane between companions. You remember the rising loaf of bread, raisins scattered through the dough. As the dough swells, every raisin finds every other raisin farther away. None of the raisins needs to crawl. The dough does the work. So too with space. The dough is the geometry of the universe, swelling everywhere, and gently increasing the separation between things not tightly held together. The picture is simple, but it carries a deep truth. You are not watching wind push objects through space. You are watching space itself grow. Still, you wonder why you do not feel this growth in your own body, in the span of your arm, in the orbit of the moon. The answer calms you. Forces closer to home are stronger than the universe's slow stretching. Atoms hold hands with electromagnetic bonds. Planets cling to stars by gravity's quiet grip. Galaxies are communities stitched by their combined mass. Within those stitches, the fabric stretch is too weak to tear the seams, so expansion lives in the wide quiet between them. You float through that night and listen for a rule spoken softly by the cosmos. The farther something is, the faster it seems to recede. Not because it flees, but because more fabric lies between you and it. And where there is more fabric, there is more stretch. Your mind frames it as a heartbeat. Thump, and the distance grows a little. Thump, and it grows again. You do not need the measured number to feel the rhythm. The story is already moving through you. If you linger on a single patch, you notice another kindness of the fabric. It offers coordinates that move with the flow, like drift lines painted on a river. In such coordinates, you are not rushing through space. You are carried with it. The grid expands, and you expand with the grid, yet you feel still. Distances change, but the coordinates cradle you, so the motion does not jolt or tear. The universe keeps its calm by letting everything ride the same slow current. It feels calm. Sometimes small ripples pass across the cloth, like the memory of a pebble that fell long ago. They are imprints of ancient sound, the aftersigh of the young cosmos. Cool. They do not stop the stretching, they ride upon it. In their patterned spacing, Observers map how the fabric has grown through time. You imagine tracing those ripples with your fingertips, reading a score of expansion the way a musician reads soft notes, learning the tempo of the universe's long song while the night leans close. You turn your attention to a different horizon, not the line where the sun sinks, but one set by light itself. There are places whose messages never reach you, not because they hide, but because the fabric between grows too quickly. Their light sets out, and the distance to cross grows faster still. That horizon is a gentle boundary, telling you what can be known by light and what must be sensed by thought. In this picture, expansion sounds abstract, but it has weight in the way seasons have weight. In the early cosmos, matter's gravity tried to slow the growth, like snow on a roof pressing down. For a long time, the press and the stretch argued in silence. Then something subtle began to lead, a pressure that does not pull things together but urges the fabric out. The roof did not cave. The roof began to rise. The change was not sudden, but it was certain, and the distances felt it first. You feel it now as poise rather than push. You practice a small meditation. With inhalation, you picture space, drawing a circle wider. With exhalation, you feel yourself held by local bonds. Family, gravity, the grain of wood beneath your hand. Inhale, distant clusters part a little more. Exhale, your world remains stitched, warm and intact. You are both participant and witness, moving with the river while standing on its shore. What you hold is this: expansion is the quiet tendency of space to make more space, a background tempo that guides galaxies. As you lie within this awareness, analogies drift by like cloud. A balloon painted with tiny dots, a crocheted blanket gently stretched across a bed, dewdrops on a spider's web separating as the strands ease. Each image offers the same feeling: the growth of distance without a traveler, the change of scale without a shot. None is perfect, yet together they soften the idea until it rests safely in your breathing, and the night becomes a patient teacher. Even so, the stretch is modest on human scales. In a single second, the change between you and a nearby star is smaller than a grain of dust. In a lifetime, the effect is still delicate. Only across the gulfs between galaxies does the motion gather into something you can chart. Your table stays steady. Your house does not drift apart. Your heart does not lose its rhythm. The grand breathing happens far away, and that distance lets you sleep. Now your mind wanders toward the people who once wished the universe would hold itself steady. You imagine a desk, lit by lamplight, pages filled with symbols, like small constellations. Somewhere among them a gentle term is added, a stitch placed to keep the cloth from sliding. It is an act of caution, almost of comfort. Perhaps the sky needs help to stay at rest. You pause, feeling the difference between a fabric that stretches by nature and one pinned by design. If the cosmos prefers to widen, what led a brilliant mind to set a counterweight and what later invited him to let it go? Somewhere under lamplight, a careful hand once tried to pin the sky in place. Perhaps we should visit that quiet decision and listen to why it was made. You imagine yourself stepping into a quiet study, the kind of room where time seems to hold its breath. A lamp glows on the desk, its circle of light pooling across pages covered in neat handwriting and curved symbols. The air smells faintly of ink and wood. On the floor, stacks of journals lean like towers built from thought. In this room sits Albert Einstein, his hair uncombed, his brow folded into the lines of deep concentration. You feel the silence broken only by the scratching of his pen. Here the vastness of the cosmos is wrestled into equations no larger than a handspan. The year is 1970. Einstein has already transformed the way humanity sees gravity. He has shown that it is not an invisible pull from a distant force, but the bending of space itself. Like a sheet sagging beneath a heavy stone, planets orbit because the space around their star curves, guiding them into paths like grooves on a record. This vision of gravity is powerful, elegant, and beautiful. But when Einstein looks upward to the entire universe, a puzzle troubles him. His equations whisper that the cosmos cannot stay still. Under the weight of gravity, everything should eventually fall inward. Stars should rush together. Galaxies should tumble toward one another. The universe should collapse like a blanket pulled too tight. Yet when Einstein gazes into the night sky, he feels certainty. The universe must be eternal, and unchanged. For centuries, that is what philosophers and astronomers have believed. The heavens were a grand stage, infinite and steady, where stars twinkled but the whole did not shift. To imagine otherwise feels almost like madness. How could the great dome of the heavens be anything but permanent? So Einstein adjusts his equations. He adds a term, not large, not bold, just a small constant, almost like a hidden stitch in the fabric. He calls it the cosmological constant. It does not come from observation but from necessity, from his own reluctance to see the universe tumble inward. With this constant in place, the equations can balance. The push of the constant offsets the pull of gravity, and the universe may remain stable, eternal, unmoving. The cloth of space becomes not only curved by matter, but also gently propped up by this mysterious term. You picture Einstein's hand pausing above the paper, as if even he knows this is not a perfect solution. It is more like a bandage placed over a wound that might reopen, yet he accepts it because the alternative feels unthinkable. To him, the night sky must remain calm. The constant is a kind of lullaby written in mathematics, a way to keep the universe from falling asleep into collapse. For a while, this quiet addition rests inside his theory like a secret. The equations work. They describe gravity, space, and time. They offer stability, the comfort of a universe held in balance. But time has a way of peeling back illusions. As decades pass, astronomers build stronger telescopes and peer deeper into the night. They begin to see galaxies not as faint smudges, but as islands of stars adrift in darkness. And in 1929, Edwin Hubble, gazing from a mountaintop observatory in California, notices something astonishing. The galaxies are not standing still. Their light is stretched, its wavelengths shifted, as though carried on an ever-expanding current. The farther away a galaxy is, the more its light is stretched. The universe is not static, it is expanding. In this moment, Einstein's constant is revealed as unnecessary. The cosmos does not need propping up. It holds within it a restless expansion, a growth that no one had foreseen. When Einstein hears of this discovery, he is said to have muttered that his constant was his biggest blunder. Yet you can feel the tenderness in this so-called mistake, for it was not foolishness, but caution, a desire to preserve what seemed certain. Sometimes the mind resists the strangeness of reality until the evidence grows too bright to ignore. Still, the story is not so simple, for what was dismissed as a blunder would later return, cloaked in mystery. The idea that space itself holds an energy, one that pushes outward, is not so different from the role Einstein gave his constant. Though he abandoned it, the constant waited, like a forgotten note that later becomes the heart of a song. Today, scientists once again speak of it, not as error but as possibility, as a way to name the force that accelerates expansion, dark energy. You sit in Einstein's study a little longer, watching his pen move across the paper. You sense the weight of his doubt. Genius is not freedom from uncertainty. It is the courage to press forward in its presence. In this room, you learn that even the greatest minds are not immune to hesitation, to the urge to steady what feels too unstable. His constant is less a mistake than a reflection of human longing, the desire for the universe to rest, to be permanent, to be something we can trust, not to change. Outside, the night remains restless. Galaxies sail away from one another, carried by the stretching fabric of space. Yet in the glow of Einstein's lamp, you feel the comfort of his hesitation. Mistakes, too, can be lullabies, offering pause before a greater truth arrives. You lean back, closing your eyes. The lesson is soft but enduring. The universe will not fit itself neatly into expectation. It will expand, it will surprise, it will move beyond the boundaries of thought. And sometimes what we call mistakes are simply stepping stones to deeper understanding. You breathe in and imagine the constant, that small, quiet stitch, resting still in the fabric of equation. Though Einstein abandoned it, though he called it his blunder, the cosmos itself may not agree. Perhaps that little stitch holds a hint of the secret we still chase. Perhaps mistakes are not the end of thought, but the beginning of discovery. The lamp flickers, and the room grows dim. Papers shift gently in the evening air. You step away, leaving Einstein to his contemplations. Behind you, the universe continues its expansion,
unworried by the human desire to steady it. Ahead, on another mountain beneath another night sky, a telescope waits, and through its lens, a new story will unfold, one that will show the sky not as fixed, but as drifting, as stretching, as alive. Soon you will climb that mountain and peer through glass, where galaxies reveal their drift, a quiet motion that forever changed how we see the sky. You climb slowly, step by step, up a winding road carved into the mountain. The air thins as you rise, and the silence deepens. The world below falls away into shadow, while above, the stars sharpen into clarity. At the summit, waiting like a sentinel, stands the observatory, a great dome of silver that gleams in moonlight. Its curves catch the night as though it were a vessel holding secrets too fragile for daylight. Here, Edwin Hubble once stood, his eye pressed to a telescope that would change the story of the universe.
You step into the observatory, cool metal walls surrounding you. The air smells faintly of oil and dust, of machinery tuned for patience. The telescope looms, a giant cylinder, heavy yet delicate, built not to rush, but to wait. Its gaze is steady, pointed outward toward galaxies that no human eye could otherwise reach. You stand beside it, and through Hubble's careful watching, you too are invited to see the drift of the cosmos. The first sight surprises you. Galaxies that seem like tiny smudges on the sky reveal themselves as islands of light, spirals of stars bound together in quiet harmony. They glow faintly, yet with purpose, like lanterns scattered across a sea of night. You watch them shimmer, and then you notice something deeper. The light is stretched, pulled toward the red end of the spectrum. The glow is not exactly as it should be. It carries the imprint of motion. Hubble measured this stretching of light with meticulous care. He discovered that the further away a galaxy is, the more its light is shifted, stretched longer, as if drawn out by distance itself. This redshift is not simply a sign of motion through space. It is the mark of space itself, expanding, carrying galaxies along like leaves drifting on a widening river. You imagine the universe as a great fabric, not only stretched but marked with every color change in its threads. The discovery is simple to state but immense to feel. The universe is not static. It is growing, opening, expanding in every direction. Galaxies move apart from each other not because they choose to travel, but because the space between them stretches, slow and steady. You breathe in, sensing this widening as part of your own breath, part of the heartbeat of existence itself. You picture the galaxies as distant companions at sea, lanterns glowing on separate boats. With each passing hour, the sea grows broader. The boats do not row, they simply drift as the water between them rises. When you look back, you realize they are farther away than before. This is how the universe carries its galaxies, how it carries you, not with haste, but with the patient insistence of expansion. Hubble's work transformed the way you understand the night. Before, the stars seemed eternal, the sky unchanging, the cosmos like a frozen dome. Now you see it as alive, dynamic, filled with motion you cannot feel, but can measure in the silence of light. You close your eyes and you can almost hear it, the quiet stretching of distances, the soft separation of companions. It is not a violent sound, not a tearing, but a drift, calm and inevitable. This drift carries an echo of time itself. For if the universe expands now, it must have been smaller in the past. If you trace the galaxies backward in your imagination, you find them closer, packed into a denser cosmos. Continue the tracing, and eventually they all converge. A beginning, a moment when space itself was compressed into unimaginable density. The expansion tells a story not just of motion, but of origin. It whispers of a time when the universe began, when light first spread, when the fabric itself unfolded for the first time. You open your eyes and gaze again through the telescope. The stars feel closer, their light more personal. Each glimmer is a messenger, carrying the memory of its drift, its journey across expanding space. The redshift is not only data, it is a story, a song of motion carried by photons across billions of years. You are not simply observing, you are listening to the rhythm of expansion, to the quiet music of the universe stretching itself wider. You let yourself imagine Hubble at his desk, charting numbers, drawing graphs, watching lines take shape. He was not only looking at galaxies but at the relation between distance and motion,
between how far away something is and how quickly it recedes. He found a law written in the stars: the farther away, the faster the retreat. This became known as Hubble's law, though in truth it is the universe's law, inscribed in every beam of light. It is a gentle rule, steady and unwavering, and it holds to this day. You feel the significance of this law settle into you like a lullaby. It says you are part of a universe not at rest, but always changing, always widening. It tells you that time itself is written in expansion, that history can be read in light stretched thin. The galaxies are drifting, and you drift with them, carried by the same current, the same patient tide. The telescope hums softly as if agreeing. The dome of the observatory is open to the sky, and you sense the vastness pouring in. You are a witness to drift, to motion too slow for human senses, but to not too slow for light. You are carried by it, held within it, rocked to sleep by the universe's most patient rhythm. And yet, as calm as it feels, there is also wonder. If galaxies drift, if space expands, what does this mean for the fate of the cosmos? Will it drift forever, growing colder and lonelier? Or will some deeper force, hidden still, guide it into a different destiny? These are not questions for tonight, but the seeds of curiosity they plant will carry you forward, from one chapter of the story to the next. The galaxies slide gently away, their light stretched like whispers across time, and you wonder what new discovery might emerge when separation itself becomes the key to understanding the night. You close your eyes for a moment and imagine the universe like a ball tossed into the air. At first it rises quickly, but gravity is always there, a quiet tug, slowing the climb. Everyone expected the cosmos to behave the same way. After its explosive beginning, it should expand, yes, but more slowly as time passes. The galaxies should drift outward like sparks from a fire, bright but destined to fall back under the weight of gravity's insistence. The question was never if the universe would slow, but how much. Would it coast to a graceful stop, balanced delicately, or would it collapse back in, crushing itself in a fiery return? These were the bedtime questions of astronomy. For decades this expectation was steady, as if written into the sky. But in the late 20th century, astronomers began to test the assumption with careful eyes and patient instruments. They turned to special messengers, supernovae, the deaths of stars that shone with such brightness they could be seen across billions of light years. These explosions, called Type Ia supernovae, burned with a known luminosity, like candles of the cosmos. By comparing how bright they appeared with how bright they were expected to be, astronomers could measure distance. They could map the speed of expansion by tracing the fading light of dying stars. You picture a team of astronomers working through the night, their telescopes aimed at faint specks of light that most eyes would ignore. On their screens, data builds line by line, numbers that whisper stories across unimaginable gulfs of time. These are not glamorous discoveries, not sudden revelations, but slow accumulations of patience. Each supernova is another voice in a cosmic choir, and together they form a song. The melody is not what anyone expected.
Instead of slowing down, the universe is speeding up. The galaxies are not coasting, they are racing apart, faster and faster, like a balloon that doesn't just stay inflated, but expands more rapidly the longer you watch it. The star's light carried this secret across billions of years, and now, at last, it is read. Expansion accelerates, the universe grows restless, widening at an increasing pace. You pause in your imagination, feeling the It is like discovering that the ball tossed into the air does not slow, but somehow rises faster with each second. It is as if gravity is not pulling down at all, but something hidden is pushing upward. The old assumptions are unset. Astronomers lean back in their chairs, staring at the data, their breath caught between disbelief and awe. This is not a mistake. The pattern is too consistent, too clear. Something is at work, something unseen, something that does not rest. You let the thought wash over you. For all the centuries humanity looked at the sky, it seemed reasonable to expect slowing, as though the universe itself must one day tire. But this discovery reveals a cosmos more restless than anyone dreamed. The acceleration is not loud or violent. It is a quiet insistence, like the tide creeping further up the shore, inch by inch. It does not shout, It does not rush, yet it is relentless. Scientists gave the mystery a name: dark energy. It was not a solution but a placeholder, a way of saying, here is something we do not understand, but we know it must be here. Dark energy fills the emptiness with presence. It drives galaxies apart more quickly as time moves forward. It is not gravity's partner but its opposite, undoing the weight, unbinding the embrace. Where gravity gathers, dark energy scatters. Where gravity clings, dark energy releases. You imagine yourself resting on a raft in the middle of a dark sea. Gravity is the anchor, pulling down, keeping you tethered, but then a current arrives, gentle at first, then steady, pushing you outward into wider waters. No matter how still you remain, no matter how strong the anchor once felt, the current carries you. That is what the accelerating universe feels like, a motion not chosen but inevitable, written into the deep waters of space itself. This discovery, first whispered in the late 1990s, spread like a chill breeze through the halls of science. Entire theories had to be reconsidered. Equations that once seemed settled now demanded revision. Einstein's so-called blunder, the cosmological constant, suddenly looked less like a mistake and more like prophecy. Perhaps he had been right, after all, without knowing it. Perhaps the universe truly did hold within it a hidden pressure, an energy that pushes outward, steady and persistent. You reflect on how fragile certainty can be. For so long, astronomers imagined one path forward, slowing, collapsing or balanced. Then the evidence opened a door no one expected. Discovery often feels like this, a gentle correction, a reminder that the universe is more inventive than our assumptions. What seems logical can crumble when light from a billion years ago whispers another truth. And so the lullaby of acceleration began. It is not a comfort in the usual sense. To know the universe expands faster and faster is to imagine an end where galaxies grow distant and the night becomes empty. But there is calm in acknowledging reality as it is, in recognizing that the cosmos does not obey our expectations, but its own rhythm. The acceleration is a rhythm too, not hurried, but steady, a beat that continues beneath all things. You lie back beneath this thought, picturing the sky as an ocean that cannot stop swelling. Each galaxy is a ship drifting farther, lanterns receding into the horizon. You are aboard one of those ships, carried by the same current, unable to feel it directly, yet part of it nonetheless. The stillness of your body hides the motion of the cosmos. You are not only watching the expansion, you are within it, woven into the restless fabric that keeps stretching outward. This discovery did not rest. Once spoken, it kept echoing, demanding answers. What is dark energy? Is it truly a constant, a uniform property of space itself? Or is it something dynamic, a field that changes with time, like a fluid flowing through the universe? Astronomers debated, theorists calculated, experiments were designed, and still no definitive answer came. The name remained, and the mystery deepened. Yet you find comfort here. In the uncertainty there is room for wonder. In the not knowing there is an openness that mirrors the expansion itself. Just as space refuses to rest, knowledge refuses to settle. Both are in motion, widening the horizon. As you breathe slowly, you let the discovery settle over you. The universe does not slow, it accelerates. The galaxies do not fall back, they race away. You are part of a story larger than gravity, larger than light. You are drifting, always drifting, in a cosmos whose expansion quickens even as you close your eyes. And in this awareness, another thought stirs. If something unseen accelerates the universe, what is it made of? How can emptiness hold power? What lives inside the silence between stars that urges them apart? The universe races outward faster and faster, and you are left with the quiet question, what is this hidden force that fills the void? And how can something unseen shape the destiny of everything? You sit quietly, eyes closed, and imagine nothing, not silence, not darkness, but the absolute absence of things. No stars, no particles, no light. At first, this emptiness feels simple, like a blank canvas waiting for a brush. But then the thought shifts. Emptiness is not truly empty. Something hums inside it, something unseen yet undeniable. This is dark energy, a force without a face, present in the void itself. It is not a force you can point to, like gravity tugging at an apple, or magnetism pulling at iron. Dark energy has no edge,
no weight, no surface. You cannot scoop it into your hands or measure it with a scale, and yet it makes galaxies drift apart, bending the future of the universe as though it were clay. The paradox is unsettling. How can nothingness hold such power? You breathe slowly, and with each breath you picture your lungs filling with air. You cannot see the oxygen entering. You cannot feel each molecule, yet you trust it is there, sustaining you. In the same way, astronomers trust the presence of dark energy. They cannot see it directly, but they see its signature written on the sky. Galaxies separating, light stretched, space expanding. It is the invisible breath of the cosmos. Dark energy is everywhere. It does not cluster like matter or pool like stars. It spreads evenly, quietly, filling every corner of the universe. If you could scoop up a handful of empty space, the dark energy within that tiny handful would be the same as in any other. It does not clump, it does not gather. It is diffuse, uniform, woven into the fabric itself. You live inside it, though you never feel its touch.
You try to imagine it, but the mind stumbles. We are used to forces that act through contact, a push on a swing, the weight of a blanket, the warmth of sunlight. Dark energy is none of these. It acts not on the surface of things, but on the stage itself. It does not push galaxies in the way wind pushes leaves. Instead, it stretches the fabric those galaxies rest upon. You are watching the stage itself widen, carrying the actors farther apart without their consent. This facelessness gives dark energy its mystery. Scientists can describe what it does, but not what it is. They give it names: vacuum energy, quintessence, the cosmological constant, but the names are placeholders, like labels on jars whose contents remain unknown. To say dark energy is simply to admit we see its effects, but we do not understand its nature. It is like calling the wind the invisible mover before you know what air is. Yet even in ignorance, there is a strange intimacy. You are connected to this faceless force. Every second, it pulls the galaxies farther from you, stretching the night sky. Without it, the universe might slow, collapse, or freeze into stillness. With it, the universe accelerates, restless and unyielding. You are drifting on its current, every heartbeat carried farther into a widening sea. You pause, letting the image deepen. Picture a small boat, floating in fog. You cannot see the current, but you feel the boat shift. Slowly, inevitably, the water beneath you is moving, though its flow is too broad to note. Dark energy is that invisible tide, guiding the whole ocean, unseen yet undeniable. Some scientists imagine it as a property of space itself, a constant energy built into the vacuum. Others wonder if it is a dynamic field, changing with time, swelling and thinning like an unseen weather. But for you, in this quiet reflection, the details soften. What matters is the feeling that nothing is not nothing, that silence carries a hum, that absence is pregnant with presence. It is a hum you cannot hear, but it is steady. Across billions of years, it has shaped the story of galaxies. Without it, clusters of stars might remain nearer. The universe might have followed a gentler path. With it, expansion grows faster, separation deepens, the sky thins. This unseen energy is not decoration, but destiny. You open your eyes and look at the night sky again. Each star is a point of familiarity, steady against the darkness. Yet now you know the darkness is not void, not empty canvas, but the very thing that drives expansion. The black between stars is not absence, but present. It is filled with the faceless force that determines how far those stars will drift, how lonely the sky will become, how the future of everything will unfold. And yet, in its facelessness, dark energy offers something tender. It reminds you that mystery need not be frightening. Some truths cannot yet be seen, only felt through their echoes. You live in those echoes every day, held inside the embrace of a universe you cannot fully understand. This is not a failure of knowledge, but a gift of wonder. You breathe again deeply, and let the breath remind you. Air is invisible, yet it sustains you. Gravity is unseen, yet it grounds you. Dark energy is hidden, yet it carries you. Life itself is built on trust in forces beyond sight. You need not see the current to know the ocean. This is the paradox that soothes you. The greatest force shaping the cosmos is faceless, nameless, invisible. And yet, it is there. Its presence is not in what you can hold, but in what you cannot deny. You are a child cradled by the universe, rocked gently in a cradle that expands even as you sleep. As you sink deeper into rest, you let go of the need for form. You accept the facelessness, the mystery, the hum of power in nothing. You drift on the quiet tide of dark energy, its whisper hidden in the silence of the stars. But a new question stirs softly, like a ripple through the calm. If this force spreads everywhere, even in emptiness, how does it balance against gravity? That old familiar pull. Can the two coexist? Or must one eventually yield to the other? The faceless force stretches the fabric wide, yet gravity still pulls, quiet and steady, and you begin to wonder how these two whispers weave together in the same cosmic song. You begin with the feeling of gravity, the simplest and most familiar of all forces. You drop a stone, and it falls. You step off a ledge, and the earth welcomes you back. Gravity is a comfort, because it is predictable. It never forgets you, never lets you drift too far. It is the silent bond that ties your body to the soil, the bond that keeps oceans held to the curve of the earth, the bond that makes the moon circle endlessly in its path. For centuries, gravity was seen as the ruling force of the universe. Every apple falling, every planet turning, every comet sweeping its icy arc was governed by it. Gravity gathered, held, stitched. It was the great collector pulling matter together and refusing to let it scatter. Even when Einstein reshaped the understanding of gravity, it remained the same in essence, the bending of space, the curve that made matter fall into paths. In every vision of the cosmos, gravity was the elder, the steady hand that gave shape to existence. Now imagine the scale stretched larger, beyond the familiar world, beyond your solar system. Gravity gathers stars into galaxies, galaxies into clusters, clusters into superclusters. It weaves the great web of the cosmos, filaments of matter, stretching like threads of lace across the universe. If gravity alone ruled, you would expect the universe to be a tighter place, bound more closely together. The expansion begun in the earliest moment would slow. Over time, it would bend inward, pulled back by the sheer attraction of every atom to every other. But as you rest inside this thought, you feel another presence, softer but insistent. Dark energy. It does not gather, it does not stitch, it spreads and pushes, loosening what gravity tightens. Where gravity is the comfort of falling back, dark energy is the invitation to drift away. One tethers, the other releases. You are inside their tension, balanced between their whispers. Picture a tug-of-war rope, stretched across the universe. On one side, gravity pulls, thick and strong, woven from the mass of every star, every particle of matter. On the other side, dark energy tugs, invisible but steady, woven from the emptiness itself. At first, gravity seems destined to win. Its grip is ancient and proven. But as the rope stretches, dark energy finds leverage. With each widening, its pull grows stronger, and the balance begins to shift. This is the strange truth. In the early universe, gravity held sway. Matter was dense, and its collective pull slowed the expansion. But as galaxies spread apart, as the fabric widened, gravity weakened across distances. Dark energy, however, did not fade. It remained steady, uniform, unthinned by expansion. And so, with time, the tug-of-war tipped. The galaxies began not just to drift, but to accelerate away, carried by the invisible hand that never tired. You let the image soften in your mind. Imagine sitting on a swing, being pulled back by gravity's hand, but then feeling a breeze that pushes you outward, stronger with each sway. The swing does not return as it should. Instead, it carries you further and further away, breaking the rhythm you once trusted. This is what the universe feels. An expansion that should have slowed but instead quickens. And yet, you realize, both forces are still present. Gravity has not left. It still sculpts stars, binds planets, keeps galaxies whole. Without it there would be no suns, no earth, no light. Dark energy has not erased gravity, but it has surpassed it on the grandest scales. Together they weave the story of the cosmos. One gathering, one dispersing, one pulling close, one letting go. Their balance defines the shape of everything you see when you gaze at the star. You breathe slowly, feeling the echo of this balance inside yourself. In your own life too, there are pulls that gather and tugs that release. You are held by family, by home, by memory, and at the same time, you are drawn outward by change, by curiosity, by time itself carrying you forward. Gravity and dark energy are not just cosmic principles. They are metaphors written into your own existence. You are balanced between what holds you and what sets you free. Now you wonder about the future. What will this balance decide for the universe? If gravity were stronger, perhaps expansion would slow, galaxies would hold closer, and the cosmos might one day collapse into fire and beginning again. If dark energy continues its push, perhaps everything will drift farther until galaxies grow lonely, stars fade, and the night turns silent. The fate of the universe is hidden in this tug of war, and you, small though you are part of it, woven into its rope, carried by its pull and push alike. Scientists measure this balance with care. They count galaxies, map clusters, trace the subtle bending of light. They measure the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the universe's first light, to understand how much gravity gathered and how much dark energy scattered. They turn data into graphs, numbers into whispers of destiny. Yet, even with all this, the mystery remains unresolved. The balance is real, but its nature is unknown. You sit with this uncertainty, letting it soothe you instead of disturb you. Balance does not need resolution. Sometimes it is enough to know that you are part of a tension that will not break tonight, or tomorrow, or for billions of years. The stars above you will continue to shine. The galaxies will continue their dance. You can rest knowing the tug of war will not tear, but only stretch. In your mind's eye you see the rope of light again. Gravity pulls, dark energy tugs, and the rope does not snap. It simply grows longer, glowing faintly as it stretches across space. You imagine yourself holding it gently, feeling the strain, but also the strength. There is calmness in this balance, like the pause between inhalation and exhalation. You are inside that pause, resting in the quiet certainty that the universe is still unfolding. And as you drift deeper, you realize the balance is not static. It shifts with time, as all things do. Gravity once dominated, and then dark energy took the lead. Perhaps the balance will tip again, in ways unknown. The rope may slacken or tighten. The universe may surprise you once more, and in that possibility lies the next chapter of the story. How scientists trace this shifting balance in the oldest ripples of light. The rope stretches on, woven of gravity's pull and dark energy's push, and you are left wondering what ancient ripples in the sky might reveal about which whisper truly leads the dance. You drift backward in time, carried by imagination, past galaxies, past stars, past clusters of light. You move toward a moment when the universe was young, still hot, still crowded, still humming with energy. You pause about 380,000 years after the beginning, an instant small compared to the billions that followed, yet vast compared to the heartbeat you feel now. The cosmos at this age glows not with starlight, for stars have not yet formed, but with a deeper radiance, a light spread evenly across the whole sky. This light is the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation. It is not bright, not sharp like a candle flame. It is gentle, faint, stretched into microwaves over billions of years of expansion. You cannot see it with your eyes, but instruments reveal it, a bath of radiation surrounding you from every direction, as though the sky itself still holds the warmth of its first breath. It is a fossil glow, the preserved memory of a time when the universe was dense and alive with motion. At that moment long ago, the universe was like a thick fog of particles, hot plasma through which light could not pass. Photons scattered endlessly, bouncing from particle to particle, unable to travel freely. But then the fog thinned, atoms formed, space cleared, and light at last broke free. That first great release became the microwave background, spreading outward, carried ever since by the expansion of space. It still surrounds you now, faint and quiet, like a blanket that once held heat and still remembers its warmth. You imagine floating above that early universe, listening not with ears but with intuition. The plasma ripples with soundless waves, pressure compressing and releasing, like the rhythm of a drum played on silence itself. Those ripples froze into the light, leaving faint patterns, delicate imprints on the cosmic background. Today, astronomers read those ripples as maps, charts of density, temperature, and vibration in the early cosmos. They are fingerprints of the forces at work from the beginning. When scientists first studied this radiation in detail, they were struck by how smooth it was. The temperature is nearly the same everywhere, differing by only tiny fractions of a degree. Yet within those subtle differences, ripples no stronger than a whisper lay the seeds of galaxies, stars, and life itself. The ripples mark where matter gathered just a little more densely, where gravity would later weave stars. They are the instructions, faint but precise, written into the fabric of light. You picture the map, a sphere surrounding you, mottled with patches of blue and red, cooler and warmer spots no thicker than the soft grain of velvet. At first glance, it looks like random noise, but within the noise there is order. Patterns emerge, scales repeat, and the universe reveals its earliest geometry. By studying these ripples, astronomers can measure the balance of forces: gravity pulling, radiation pushing, dark energy waiting quietly for its role to unfold. Dark energy itself is not directly visible in this ancient light, but its presence is implied. The way the ripples spread, the sizes of the patterns, the overall curvature of space, all whisper of a universe that cannot stay still. The background radiation is like a photograph, not of dark energy itself, but of a stage already prepared for its run. Even at this young age, the fabric of the cosmos was shaped by a destiny that would later accelerate expansion. The fingerprints were there, waiting to be read. You pause and think of fingerprints more closely. They are unique, subtle, not obvious to the casual glance. You might pass them over without noticing, until a careful eye brings them into focus. The microwave background is just like that. Faint, hidden, waiting for instruments sensitive enough to notice its texture. Satellites like COBE, WMAP, and Planck became those careful eyes, mapping the ripples with precision, turning faint whispers into clear songs. With their help, the universe revealed itself with stunning clarity. And what did those maps show? That space is nearly flat, stretched as though on a vast plain. That matter alone cannot explain the expansion we see today. That dark energy must account for most of the cosmos, though invisible. You realize as you float in this thought that the story of dark energy is not built on direct sight, but on indirect traces, subtle fingerprints written in the oldest light. You rest in the calm rhythm of this idea. Even the faintest whispers carry truth. The universe does not shout its secrets. It hums them, softly, in radiation stretched across billions of years. You need not rush to hear it. You need only listen gently, letting the faint glow of the background settle around you like a lullaby. Imagine again the blank, warm at first, then slowly cooling, yet always holding the memory of heat. The cosmic microwave background is that blanket stretched around you, reminding you that the universe once burned with unimaginable brightness. Now it glows faintly, not to warm your body, but to warm your curiosity. It tells you that the cosmos began not in silence, but in vibration, and that even now, you live inside its echo. You close your eyes and feel yourself floating within that blanket. The ripples cradle you, each one a memory of a wave that once passed through the young universe. They are soft, delicate, yet decisive, the first notes of a song that continues still. You are wrapped in that song, part of it, carried forward by its melody into the present night. And as you listen, another thought arrives. If light can hold the memory of ripples for billions of years, then dying stars too may carry secrets in their glow. Their explosions, brief and brilliant, can reveal the speed of expansion in ways that deepen this mystery further. Perhaps in their fading brightness lies the next chapter of the universe's story. The ancient blanket of light holds its ripples still, and you begin to wonder what messages burning stars might carry when their final glow becomes a guide to the restless expansion of the cosmos. You sit beneath the night sky and imagine the quiet life of a star. For millions or even billions of years, it burns steadily, fusing hydrogen into helium, pouring light outward in all directions. Its glow is so constant, so faithful, that it is easy to believe it will last forever. But nothing in the universe endures unchanged. Even the most steadfast star has an ending, and when that ending comes, it is not a whisper, but a blaze. A supernova is a star's final breath made visible,
a death that looks like sudden light. One moment, the star is ordinary. The next, it erupts into brightness so fierce that it can outshine an entire galaxy. To the eye, it is a single flare, a candle burning too quickly, consumed in its own brilliance. But to astronomers, these brief flames are more than spectacle. They are messengers. They carry information across billions of years, encoded in their light. Among supernovae, one kind is especially precious. The type Y supernova. Unlike massive stars that collapse under their own weight, these explosions are born from companionship. A white dwarf star, the dense remnant of a sun-like star, orbits close to a partner. It pulls matter from its companion, grain by grain, until it grows too heavy. When it reaches a critical mass, it can no longer hold itself together. In an instant, it ignites in a thermonuclear blaze, a cosmic match struck too forcefully. The result is always the same, a supernova of nearly identical brightness. This consistency makes type Y supernovae special. They are standard candles, lights of known strength scattered across the cosmos. If you know how bright a candle truly is, then by measuring how dim it appears, you can tell how far away it must be. The further the supernova, the fainter its glow. By gathering these measurements, astronomers build a map of distances across the universe.
You let yourself imagine holding one of these candles in your hand, though it is billions of light years away. You feel its warmth, bright and certain, a steady flame. Then you place it farther and farther still, watching its glow dim with distance. The faintness tells you not just how far the light has traveled, but how much the universe has stretched while carrying it. Each dying star becomes a ruler, marking out the scale of the cosmos. In the late 20th century, two teams of astronomers set out to measure the fate of the universe using these stellar messengers. They expected to confirm what seemed obvious, that expansion, though present, was slowing under gravity's pull. Night after night, they scanned the skies, searching for these rare explosions, capturing their light with telescopes. Each supernova was catalogued, measured, its brightness compared to distance, and slowly, the pattern emerged. It was not what they expected. The supernovae were dimmer than they should have been. Their light had traveled farther than anticipated. The message was clear. The galaxies were not just moving apart. They were accelerating away. The universe was not slowing down at all. It was racing outward faster and faster. You pause with this revelation. Imagine reading a letter from a loved one, only to discover a secret hidden between the lines. That is what these supernovae carried. A secret written in dimness, a truth about expansion encoded in light that had traveled for billions of years. Silent messengers, flaring once and gone, but leaving knowledge that reshaped our understanding of everything. The astronomers who uncovered this secret did not shout. Their discovery was quiet, measured, filled with caution, yet it was profound enough to earn them the Nobel Prize. More than that, it reintroduced a mystery once thought discarded. The cosmological constant, Einstein's so-called mistake, now reborn as dark energy. These explosions of dying stars, brief though they are, illuminated the most enduring puzzle of modern science. You rest in the calm irony of it. The end of a star reveals the fate of the universe. Death becomes message, silence becomes guide. The cosmos does not waste its endings. It turns them into revelations. As you drift deeper into this thought, you picture yourself following one of those beams of light from a supernova. It leaves the explosion, races across space, and enters the stretching fabric of the universe. As billions of years pass, the light stretches too, its wavelength growing longer, its glow dimming. Finally, it arrives here, to your telescope, to your eyes carrying the record of its journey. In that single beam is the memory of expansion, the echo of dark energy. You realize you are not simply looking at stars, you are looking at time itself. Every supernova is a time machine, its light carrying you backward into epochs you can never visit. The further away the supernova, the younger the universe you see, and in that youth, you see the acceleration already unfolding. It is as though the cosmos itself were whispering, "I will not rest, I will not slow, I am carried by a force without face." There is something meditative in this. You do not need to rush to grasp it. The stars already waited billions of years to tell you their story. Their patience becomes your patience.
Their silence becomes your calm. You lie back, imagining yourself as one more observer in the long chain of watchers who have traced these messages, each adding to the story. You are part of that chain now, and yet as calm as it feels, the mystery deepens. If supernovae revealed acceleration, what sustains it? What is dark energy truly made of? Why does emptiness swell instead of fade? The messengers delivered the news, but not the explanation. Their role is to point, not to answer, and so you are left with questions, soft and unresolved, echoing like the fading glow of a dying star. Still, you find peace in this uncertainty. The stars do not promise certainty, they promise wonder. Their endings remind you that even in silence, there is knowledge, even in distance there is connection. The universe reveals itself in fragments, each fragment enough to guide you one step further, enough to keep curiosity alive. You breathe in and feel that curiosity settle within you like starlight. The cosmos is not still, and neither is your search. Both move forward, both wide. You are carried by expansion, carried by the light of stars long gone, carried by the whisper of a universe still accelerate. The dying stars flare and fade, leaving only their messages behind, and you are left to wonder if the very vacuum of space, the nothingness between, might hold the secret to the force they reveal. You let yourself drift into the space between stars. At first it seems like nothing at all, a vast silence, a perfect void, no warmth, no light, no matter, just the deep dark expanse where galaxies appear as scattered lanterns. Your first thought is simple: this must be true emptiness. But as you linger here, you begin to sense a subtle hum. It is not sound, but presence. What looks bare is not barren, the vacuum is not empty. Imagine standing in a quiet meadow at dusk. To the eye it may appear still, but listen closely and you notice the rustle of insects, the flutter of wings, the faint chorus of hidden lives. Space is like this. To casual sight it is silence. To deeper perception, it is buzzing with hidden activity. The emptiness between stars is alive with quantum whispers. Quantum theory tells you that even in a vacuum, particles are never truly gone. They flicker into existence for the briefest instant, then vanish again, like fireflies in a dark field. These virtual particles cannot be caught, yet their effects can be measured. They are born from uncertainty itself, from the restless fabric of the quantum world. You imagine them as ghostly sparks, winking on and off, weaving a quiet glow too faint for your senses but strong enough to shape reality.
This flickering means that space is not a neutral stage. It has its own energy, a restless hum that does not fade even when matter is gone. Physicists call this vacuum energy, and it may be the very thing we call dark energy. The accelerating expansion of the universe may not come from something outside space, but from the vacuum itself, a pressure woven into its nature. You pause here, letting the idea soften. Nothingness is not nothing. The void carries weight, not in mass, but in energy. To your imagination, it is like the ocean's surface. On calm days, it looks still, but beneath, currents stir, fish dart, and unseen forces move the water. Space is the same, calm to the eye, restless at its root. Even more, this vacuum energy shapes the destiny of the cosmos. If it is strong enough, it drives galaxies apart forever. If it changes with time, it may alter the rhythm of expansion. The invisible hum of empty space is not decoration. It is one of the most powerful presences in the universe. You breathe in, feeling the analogy within your own body. You cannot see the air around you, but with each breath you prove it exists. The vacuum is like that air, unseen, intangible, yet sustaining the structure of everything. You are always inside it, always surrounded, always supported by a presence you cannot touch. Some experiments reveal this hidden truth directly. The Casimir effect, for example, shows that even a vacuum exerts a force. Place two metal plates very close together, and the flickering virtual particles in the space between them create a measurable pressure. You cannot see the particles, yet their absence and presence shift reality. The vacuum, once thought to be an empty stage, reveals itself as a restless actor. You close your eyes and picture the vacuum not as blank blackness, but as a field shimmering faintly, full of invisible sparks. Fireflies wink in and out, Waves ripple without sound. It is both still and alive, calm and restless. This paradox comforts you. Emptiness is never truly empty, just as silence is never truly silent. There is always a background hum, a quietness filled with unseen motion. This thought reshapes the way you see the universe. The galaxies are not floating in nothingness, but in a sea with its own character. They are carried by expansion driven by the very energy of space. The stars drift apart, not only because of an external push, but because the vacuum itself swells. The stage of the cosmos is not passive, it participates. It changes the play even as the actors move upon it. Yet the mystery deepens. When physicists try to calculate the energy of the vacuum using quantum theory, they find numbers so vast they dwarf reality. Their estimates suggest an energy trillions of times stronger than what we observe, but the real universe expands far more gently. This mismatch, the vacuum catastrophe, is one of science's deepest puzzles. How can the theory predict such immensity when the cosmos shows only subtlety? Somewhere, truth waits, hidden behind equations we have not yet completed. You rest in that puzzle, not anxious but calm. Science is not a finished story but an unfolding one, and the mystery itself is part of the one. The vacuum's hidden hum reminds you that the universe is always larger than your knowing. What feels like emptiness may yet hold layers of meaning, waiting for patient discovery. As you lie within this reflection, you imagine drifting through intergalactic space, far from any star. The darkness presses gently against you. At first, it seems endless and void, but slowly you sense the flicker of particles, the hum of energy, the subtle fullness within the silence. You are not lost in nothing, you are carried by a sea of invisible motion, as steady as your own breath. The vacuum, once feared as empty, becomes a source of comfort. It is everywhere, uniform, steady. You are never outside it. Just as the sea surrounds a swimmer, space surrounds you. Even in its facelessness, it supports the galaxies, drives the expansion, and writes the fate of everything. You let this rhythm settle into you. Inhale, and you feel your lungs expand, space opening inside your chest. Exhale, and you imagine the release, not as collapse, but as gentle continuation, as though the breath itself wanted to linger in expansion. This is the rhythm of a universe turned inside out, an expansion that grows stronger instead of weaker, a pressure that pushes instead of weighs. Scientists describe this in equations, in symbols that weave together density, volume, and curvature. But for you, here in this calm reflection, the meaning rests in metaphor. The cosmos is not being crushed, but opened. It is not pressed down, but lifted. The pressure of dark energy is like a hand that untangles knots, like a breeze that parts branches, like a silence that widens rather than closes. You imagine standing in a vast hall filled with balloons. Each balloon is tied, compressed by the elastic of its skin. But in this hall, there is an invisible presence that moves among them, not popping or destroying, but coaxing each balloon to swell, to drift farther from its neighbor. The balloons are galaxies, and the hall is space itself. The presence is pressure, but of an unfamiliar kind, one that urges openness. This raises a question in your heart. How can pressure be negative? You think of it not as subtraction, but as inversion. Normal pressure squeezes, compacts. Negative pressure releases, expands. Both are forms of influence. Both are ways the universe expresses force. In a sense, negative pressure is not absence, but the opposite kind of presence, where weight confines. This pressure liberates. The consequences are profound. If dark energy continues to act with negative pressure, galaxies will drift farther and farther, until eventually the night sky empties. Stars beyond your local cluster will slip out of sight, carried away by expansion too fast for their light to reach. The universe will thin, not because of destruction, but because pressure keeps loosening the bonds that once held it together. The cosmos itself becomes a story of release, and yet, there is gentleness in this release. It is not a violent scattering, but a slow, patient widening. Over billions of years, distances stretch, light lengthens, silence deepens. The pressure does not tear suddenly, it hums steadily, insistently, like a river that flows not with urgency but with constancy. You are adrift in this current, your galaxy one of countless boats, carried outward in quiet procession, The puzzle remains. Why should space itself carry this pressure? Why should nothingness push outward instead of resting still? Physicists wonder if the answer lies in the energy of the vacuum, in quantum whispers that do not vanish, but accumulate, forming a background push. Others imagine fields, dynamic and shifting, that fill the cosmos with this invisible influence. No one knows for certain. The equations work, but the explanation still waits. You breathe slowly, accepting the not knowing as part of the rhythm. The cosmos does not demand you solve it tonight. It only asks that you rest within the awareness that expansion is not simple, not obvious. It is carried by a pressure unlike any you know, an influence that loosens instead of binds, that widens instead of compresses. This mystery is not a wall but an opening, inviting you to wonder. In your imagination, you return to you see it loosen strand by strand, not because of force, but because of a presence that prefers openness. You realize you too live between forces, gravity that grounds, dark energy that releases. You are balanced between the pull of belonging and the invitation to drift. Both are part of your story, both are part of the cosmos. The thought calms you. You need not choose between weight and release. The universe holds both, just as your life holds both. There are times to be gathered close, and times to drift into open. Dark energy, with its strange negative pressure, reminds you that release is not always loss. Sometimes it is simply the rhythm of things unfolding. You lie back, resting in this rhythm, letting the image of the expanding cosmos cradle you. Pressure becomes not burden but breath, not weight but widening. You are part of it, carried gently outward, your story woven into the pressure that loosens knots across the sky. And as you rest deeper, another thought stirs. If Einstein once called his constant a mistake, what does it mean that this negative pressure may be exactly what he glimpsed? Could an abandoned idea return, not as error, but as prophecy? The puzzle of pressure lingers softly, and you begin to wonder whether Einstein's quiet constant, once dismissed, may yet be the key to understanding this widening breadth of the universe. You return to a desk lit by lamplight, the same desk where Einstein once scribbled his equation. Papers lie scattered like fallen leaves, each marked with the symbols of curved space and time. In that moment he believed he was patching a flaw, adding a small adjustment to keep the universe steady. It was his cosmological constant, a term he inserted to prevent his equations from predicting an unstable cosmos. For him, the universe had to be eternal, unmoving, like a grand cathedral built on unshakable foundation. Later, when Edwin Hubble revealed that galaxies were drifting apart, Einstein looked at that extra term with regret. The universe was not static, it was expanding. The constant, he thought, had been an unnecessary trick, a false comfort. He called it his greatest blunder, though perhaps he was too harsh with himself. Sometimes what looks like a mistake is simply an idea waiting for its time. Decades passed, and the constant sat quietly, tucked away in history's margin. Physicists moved forward, leaving it behind, like a stitch no longer needed. The story of the cosmos seemed clear enough without it. A universe born in expansion, slowing gently under gravity's pull. Yet the night sky had another secret to share, one revealed by the faint light of supernovae. When astronomers discovered the expansion was not slowing but accelerating, the abandoned constant began to stir again. You imagine it like an old river, once diverted, finding its way back to the sea. The cosmological constant, once dismissed, returned with new meaning. Perhaps Einstein had been right after all, though for the wrong reason. His constant, that quiet patch, now looked like the simplest explanation for dark energy, the mysterious force pushing galaxies apart faster and faster. You picture the constant not as a mistake, but as a small symbol carrying enormous weight. In the equations of general relativity, it appears as a term that adds energy to space itself. With it, space does not just bend under matter, it also stretches under its own hidden pressure. A tiny number in ink becomes the engine of cosmic acceleration. You rest in the poetry of this return. An idea abandoned in regret becomes a cornerstone of modern science. The constant is no longer a patch for a static universe, but a description of the restless expansion we now observe. It is a reminder that knowledge does not always move forward in straight lines. Sometimes it circles back, revisiting paths once thought closed. The constant, if true, suggests that dark energy is simply the energy of the vacuum, a uniform pressure spread evenly across space. It does not change with time, it does not flow or ripple. It is steady, eternal, a quiet presence that shapes the destiny of galaxies. You imagine it like the soft background hum of the cosmos, always there, unchanging, guiding expansion with a patient hand. But as calm as this idea feels, there is tension beneath it. If the constant is vacuum energy, then calculations from quantum theory predict it should be unimaginably large, far greater than what we observe, yet the real universe expands gently, as if tuned to a whisper rather than a roar. This mismatch remains one of science's deepest puzzles, a riddle hidden inside the constant's calm simplicity. You sit with the contradiction. On the one hand, the cosmological constant offers elegance, one number to explain the acceleration. On the other, it opens a mystery that no equation yet resolves. But this is the nature of science. Old ideas return, not as answers, but as doors to new questions. As you reflect, you sense a lesson in the constant story. Ideas are never truly wasted. Even those cast aside can find new life in another age, another context. What Einstein once mourned as a blunder may now be the very clue leading us closer to understanding dark energy. The river always finds its way to the sea. You breathe gently, imagining the cosmos under the influence of this constant. Galaxies drift apart, not because of some wild, chaotic force, but because of a steady, uniform presence embedded in space itself. Expansion becomes inevitable, not dramatic but persistent, like a tree's slow growth or a tide's quiet rise. You rest in that image, soothed by the thought of a universe guided by constancy. And yet, your curiosity stirs. Is the constant truly constant? Or is it only a placeholder, a temporary name for something deeper, something more dynamic? Could dark energy be changing, even now, shifting like an unseen field? Perhaps the constant is not the final word, but a first step, a bridge towards something still hidden. The thought lingers as you close your eyes. The cosmological constant has returned, not as a solution but as a companion to mystery. It is a symbol of humility, reminding you that even genius can misjudge, and even regret can carry seeds of truth. You rest inside that humility, at peace with the idea that the universe is always larger than the answers we carry. The constant hums quietly in the fabric of equations, and you begin to wonder if this steady presence is all there is, or if something more fluid, a shifting quintessence, might be waiting behind it. You begin with a word that feels old, almost mythic, quintessence. In the time of the ancient philosophers, it was spoken of as the fifth element, the subtle essence beyond earth, air, fire, and water. It was thought to be the fabric of the heavens, the purest substance, eternal and unchanging, filling the universe with invisible light. They imagined the stars suspended in it, moving across its crystalline perfection. To them, quintessence was what gave the cosmos its order, its quiet harmony. Centuries later, the word returns, not in myth but in science. Today, scientists borrow the name to describe a possibility. What if dark energy is not a constant at all, not Einstein's quiet patch stitched permanently into the fabric of space, but a living field, shifting and flowing like invisible water? What if the universe is not guided by steady hum, but by a current that changes as it moves? You let the thought wash over you like a tide. The cosmological constant is comforting in its simplicity, unchanging, steady, eternal, but quintessence is different. It whispers of dynamism, of a force that evolves, that breathes with time, that has moods and seasons. If dark energy is quintessence, then the acceleration of the universe is not fixed but alive, changing as the ages unfold. Picture yourself walking beside a river at dusk. Its surface looks calm, but the current beneath shifts, faster in some places, slower in others, turning gently around rocks, forming eddies and flows. Quintessence is imagined as such a river, invisible yet present everywhere, a field that fills all of space. You cannot cup it in your hands, but you feel its presence in the way galaxies drift, in the way expansion bends toward acceleration. Unlike the cosmological constant, which is the same at every moment, quintessence could grow stronger or weak. Perhaps in the early universe, it was faint, hardly noticeable. Perhaps later it surged, pulling galaxies apart more rapidly. Perhaps in the far future it will change again, its current shifting course, altering the fate of everything. The idea is bold,
because it opens the future to possibilities rather than certainties. You pause and breathe, imagining the universe as a great ocean of invisible currents. The stars, the galaxies, even your own body float within. You are not adrift in emptiness, but in a sea that changes slowly, too slowly for your lifetime to measure, but not too slowly for the cosmos to feel. The dream of quintessence is more than poetry. It is also mathematics. Scientists picture it as a field, much like the electromagnetic field that carries light or the Higgs field that gives particles mass. But unlike those familiar fields, quintessence has no direct interaction you can touch. It interacts instead with the very shape of space, pressing outward, influencing expansion. Its energy is not fixed, but shifts as the field evolves. To the imagination, it is like an invisible weather, a climate of space itself, with seasons stretching across billions of years. This dynamism makes quintessence alluring. It offers a way to explain puzzles the cosmological constant cannot solve. Perhaps the mismatch between quantum calculations and observed reality is resolved if dark energy is not constant but adaptive, adjusting its strength with time. Perhaps the balance between matter and energy, so delicately tuned, is not coincidence, but the work of a field that shifts to maintain harmony. You let these possibilities settle in you like mist. Science does not yet know if quintessence is real, but the idea itself opens doors of one. Just as the ancients imagined a fifth essence to fill the heavens, modern minds imagine a living field to explain the cosmos's restless acceleration. The two visions meet across centuries, myth and science whispering the same word. There is something deeply human in this recurrence. You too search for explanations, for essences hidden beneath appearances. When the stars seem too far and the universe too vast, you reach for a name, a concept, a story that brings meaning to mystery. Quintessence is one such story, an idea that says the universe is not static but alive, not finished but evolving, not ruled by simplicity alone, but by complexity that shifts with time. Now you imagine yourself traveling through space, far beyond galaxies, into the great voids between them. At first you feel only emptiness, but then, with the eyes of thought, you sense the current of quintessence flowing. It is not a wind you can hear, not a river you can see, but a presence that guides everything. The galaxies are like seeds drifting on its surface, carried not by choice, but by its invisible flow. You float with them, feeling the gentle tug of a field too vast for senses, yet intimate in its embrace.
The poetry of quintessence is in its change. If it is real, then the universe has moods. It is not one endless song, but a symphony with movements, fast, slow, swelling, receding. The tempo of expansion may have shifted across ages, and may shift again. The stars you see tonight are part of one verse, but the chorus is larger, spanning billions of years. You are listening to a living rhythm, one that changes as it plays. This thought is not frightening, but calming. Change is natural. You live it every day, the change of breath, of heartbeat, of seasons. Why should the universe be any different? Perhaps quintessence is the cosmos, breathing, expanding and accelerating, not as a rigid machine, but as a living field. And yet, a question lingers. If quintessence can change, could it one day grow stronger still? Could it push so fiercely that galaxies, stars, even atoms are torn apart in what some call the Big Rip? Or might it fade, letting gravity regain its sway, slowing expansion once more? These futures remain uncertain, painted not in certainty but in possibility. You rest within that uncertainty. Certainty can be heavy, but possibility is light. It leaves room for wonder, for curiosity, for peace with not knowing. Quintessence, whether real or not, reminds you that the universe is not finished, that its story is still being written, that its breath may yet change in ways no one has foreseen. As you drift deeper into reflection, you imagine the ancient philosophers gazing at the stars, whispering of a fifth essence. They did not know of dark energy, nor of cosmic acceleration, nor of shifting field, but they sensed that something unseen must fill the heavens, something vital, something bile, something beyond the four elements of earth, air, fire and water. In their whispers, and in modern science's equations, the same longing echoes, to name the mystery, to hold it gently in words. The dream of quintessence lingers, and you begin to wonder, if the universe truly breathes with such changing currents, what would happen if that breath grew too strong, carrying everything into a final unravel? You begin by picturing the universe as a vast fabric stretched across invisible frames. For billions of years, that fabric has widened gently, tugged outward by dark energy's steady hand. You imagine galaxies floating like beads sewn into the cloth, carried apart as the weave expands. The motion feels calm, patient, almost soothing, an expansion that hums quietly beneath all things. But then you hear a different whisper. What if dark energy does not remain steady? What if it grows stronger with time, not weak? What if its pressure increases as the universe expands instead of fading? In this possibility lies a new name: phantom energy. It is the dream of a force that will not stop stretching, a current that intensifies until it unravels everything in its path. You close your eyes and imagine this unfolding. At first, the expansion looks like what you already know: galaxies drifting apart, stars receding, distances widening. But with phantom energy, the pace quickens unnaturally. Expansion does not calm, it accelerates beyond all measure. The galaxies move farther at first, then the clusters that bind them are torn apart. The cosmic web itself loosens, filaments of matter dissolving into isolation. You follow the vision deep. Billions of years from now, phantom energy could reach a strength where even galaxies cannot hold themselves together. Gravity's grip, ancient and enduring, weakens under the growing pull. Stars slip from orbits, solar systems unravel. Worlds like Earth lose their sun's embrace, set adrift into widening cold. Still, the expansion surges. The closer you move to this imagined future, the more fragile everything feels. Stars themselves could be torn apart, their nuclear fires extinguished not by age, but by separation. Then, in the most haunting stage, even atoms may no longer survive. Phantom energy, if real, could grow strong enough to pry apart the bonds that hold protons and electrons together. The smallest structures of matter, once thought eternal, could unravel into silence. This end is called the Big Rip. It is not fire, not collapse, not freeze. It is dissolution, the gradual unbinding of everything, from galaxies to molecules, until no structure remains. Time itself would seem to dissolve, for without matter to mark its rhythm, the very idea of moments would lose meaning. The universe would not end in violence, but in ultimate fragility, pulled so wide it becomes unthreaded. At first glance, the thought is frightening. You imagine your world losing its bonds, the stars themselves stretching thin, the sky unraveling. Yet as you sit with the image, fear softens. There is wonder in the delicacy of it, the idea that everything, no matter how solid it feels now, is fragile before the currents of cosmic time. You live inside a universe that appears strong, but even its deepest knots may loosen. You pause and breathe, feeling the paradox. To know that atoms themselves might one day unravel does not diminish their beauty, it magnifies it. Every bond, every connection, every moment of stability is temporary, and therefore precious. Just as a flower is made more lovely by its short bloom, the universe itself becomes more luminous when you see its fragility. Phantom energy remains only a possibility, a whisper of theory not yet confirmed. The measurements of expansion today are consistent with a steady dark energy, perhaps a cosmological constant, but the uncertainty leaves room for imagination. What if dark energy is not fixed? What if it grows with time? The Big Rip is not prediction, but a story told to remind you that even the largest things are not beyond vulnerability. You let the thought flow into your own life. You too live between forces that gather and forces that release. You are held by gravity to the earth, by bonds to those you love, by habits that give shape to your days. And yet there are currents of change that always tug outward, urging separation, urging transformation. Like galaxies in phantom energy, you are both bound and loosened, both steady and fragile. Knowing this does not bring despair, it brings gentleness. In your imagination, you drift into that far future. The stars around you grow dimmer as galaxies slide out of reach. Eventually, only the stars of your local group remain, then even they scatter. The night sky empties, you are left in stillness, surrounded not by stars but by widening silence. And within that silence, even the atoms within you begin to quiver, their bonds stretched by the relentless time. You feel yourself dissolving not in violence but in release,
You're being spread into the widening fabric of the cosmos. There is peace here too. The end of structure is not the end of presence. Matter may dissolve, but its essence remains part of the fabric, spread evenly, gently across the whole. The Big Rip, frightening in name, becomes less a tearing and more a dispersal, a returning of every knot to the wide sea of existence. You are not lost, you are carried.
As you drift further into this meditation, you realize that Phantom Energy's story is not about destruction, but about possibility. It teaches you that the future of the universe is not settled. It could be steady, it could be cyclical, it could be unbound. Each scenario reminds you that the cosmos is larger than certainty, wider than prediction. You do not need to know the ending to find meaning in the present. You breathe again gently and let the vision fade. Galaxies return to their patient drift, stars to their steady burning, atoms to their quiet bonds. For now, the universe holds. For now, gravity and dark energy balance in ways that sustain structure. The Big Rip, if it comes at all, is unimaginably far away. Your world remains intact, your sky still bright. Fragility is real, but so is endurance. And as you rest in this balance, another thought arises, softer than a whisper. If Phantom Energy represents the extreme of dark energy's power, then what of its quieter partner, dark matter? If dark energy pushes the cosmos apart, dark matter pulls it together, silent and unseen. What role does that hidden partner play in shaping the story? The vision of Phantom Energy fades into silence, and you are left wondering about its quiet counterpart, the invisible matter that gathers instead of scatters, pulling galaxies into shape even as the universe drifts apart. You begin by feeling the two simplest verbs the universe knows, to gather and to release. Gravity, carried by dark matter, gathers. Dark energy releases. One draws things inward, making structure, memory, and shape. The other leans outward, opening distance. You rest between them like a small boat on a tide that runs in both directions. Dark matter is the quieter of the pair, not because it is weak, but because it works without light. It does not shine or burn, yet its pull is decisive. Galaxies spin faster than their visible stars alone can explain. Spiral arms hold together when, by the arithmetic of starlight, they should fly apart. The unseen mass is the missing glue, a halo of gravity cradling each galaxy. You walk, in thought, to the edge of a spiral. Stars trace bright pinwheels. Gas glows in lanes, but around all of it stretches a sphere of dark matter, far larger than what you see. Inside that halo, orbits make sense. Outside it, they would break. You do not feel the halo, you infer it, the way you infer wind from the leaning of trees. Rotation curves, lines that stay high where they ought to fall. Write the halo's signature across the night. Dark matter gathers on larger scales too. It builds scaffolding. Across billions of light years, matter forms a web, filaments and nodes like frost on a window. The bright parts, galaxies and clusters, hang on this lattice the way dew beads on a spider's silk. You imagine running a finger along one filament and feeling gravity thicken knots where many strands meet. This gathering is patient. In the early universe, tiny ripples in density, mere whispers in the hot plasma, grew under gravity's encouragement. Where there was slightly more, dark matter drew more still. Time turned small differences into great patterns. Stars lit in the densest base. Yet even as dark matter gathers, dark energy thins. It does not fight gravity in a single arena. It changes the arena itself. By stretching space, it increases the distances dark matter must bridge. Think of children playing tug-of-war on a dock while the tide rises. Their ropes do not change. Their muscles do not weaken, but the distance between them grows, turning each pull into a longer effort. So it is with cosmic structure. The web still forms, but its strands must cross ever-widening gaps. You feel the balance in your breath. Inhale, the gathering of air, the closeness of the body. Exhale, the release, the widening. Neither cancels the other. They alternate, cooperate, make rhythm. On the human scale, gravity wins. Your feet meet the ground. On the galactic scale, halos bind stars into family. On the largest scales, dark energy sets the tempo. Sometimes the balance writes itself in dramatic scenes. Picture two clusters colliding at high speed, their stars passing through like swarms of bees.
their gas slamming together and heating into a luminous cloud. The dark matter, shy of interaction, ghosts ahead, carrying the bulk of mass while the gas lags behind. The separation sketches a truth. Most of the mass is unseen. Turn now to a gentler scene, a distant galaxy stretched into an arc by another galaxy's gravity. The curve is delicate, like ink pulled by a wet brush. This is gravitational lensing, the way mass bends light and reveals itself by distortion. With it, astronomers trace the dark matter's shape, mapping halos and filaments not by seeing them, but by watching what they do to passing light. Dark energy leaves signatures too, though more patient. It slows the growth of clusters, even as it speeds the widening of space. It shifts the sound scale imprinted from the early universe, the preferred spacing between galaxies that wide surveys still find. It tilts the story told by supernovae, and by the background glow left from creation. None of these marks is loud. Together they murmur the same direction. The sea between islands rises. You rest in the companionship of opposite. Dark matter's pull enables gatherings. Stars, clusters, the intricate lace of the web. Dark energy's push protects solitude. Voids widen, horizons retreat, islands drift. Together they choreograph the era you inhabit. A golden middle in which structure is rich and the sky still plentiful with other galaxies. In far epochs, dark energy may dim that plenty, but tonight the archipelago still glitters. The partnership also lives inside you. Your life, too, is shaped by a pull to belong and a push to become. You gather memories, friendships, language. You release old seasons, open distances within yourself for what is next. These forces are not just equations. They are metaphors that breathe alongside your lungs. They do not fight. They alternate in a dance only time can slow. Return to the question of scale, because scale decides who leads. In rooms and rivers, gravity's voice is loud. Dark energy whispers too softly to matter. In galaxies, the whisper is still modest. Halos rule, stars obey. Across superclusters and beyond, the whisper becomes the metronome. Expansion sets the beat, and the gathered choirs drift apart between notes. What then is fate? If dark energy holds its course, the web will stretch thinner. Distant galaxies will fade past local bonds. Your galaxy and its few neighbors may remain loyal, bound into a long companionship. Inside that island, dark matter will continue its work, shepherding stars, steadying orbits, nursing the slow creation of whatever new lights are possible. Outside, the sea will widen until other islands are stories told by ancient light.
Do not hurry away from this thought. There is a softness in knowing that what gathers and what releases can both be kind. Without gathering, there would be no stars to warm planets, no places to stand. Without release, the sky could never open enough to make room for all the seeds. The universe mothers both impulses and lets them share the night. Still, you are curious. How can something so invisible be measured, mapped, and trusted? How can a force that emits no light write such legible lines across observation? The answer is gentle, by watching what can be seen, light, temperature, and the clustering of galaxies, and letting patterns speak for what lies beneath. Repetition is a form of evidence. Agreement among many quiet measurements becomes a chorus. You picture the tools that listen, mirrors that drink, starlight, radio dishes that cup ancient photons, detectors that time the arrival of brief flashes, surveys that count galaxies, the way foresters count trees. Statistics is a tide, smoothing noise until the coastline of truth appears. No single measurement is royal. The power lies in the weave. For now, you float between partners, grateful for both. You feel your weight and your widening, the chair beneath you and the sky beyond it. You belong to gravity's gatherings. You are carried by dark energy's release. Between the two, you find rest, like lying in a hammock, tied to trees that sway in opposite breezes. The sway does not unsettle, it lulls. When you open your eyes to the night, you are ready for the next question. If the universe writes its secrets in distortions, counts, and echoes, how do we read them with instruments and patience? You inhale, steady and slow, and wonder which tools will let you measure the invisible without disturbing its quiet glow. You drift into a place of questions, where hands reach out but grasp only air? How do you measure what refuses to be held? How do you weigh the weightless or map a presence that never reveals itself directly? Dark matter and dark energy are like this, two vast shadows woven through the universe. You cannot touch them, but you can sense their pull. You cannot see them, but their fingerprints mark the star. To measure the invisible, astronomers turn not to touch, but to light. Light is the faithful messenger. It streams across the cosmos, carrying stories of what it has passed. It bends when gravity tugs at it. It stretches when space itself expands. By watching light carefully, scientists learn about what lies in the dark. You imagine yourself as a photon, leaving the heart of a star. You travel through endless night and then, after billions of years, you enter the lens of a telescope on Earth. Inside that tiny glimmer you carry news of galaxies, clusters, and unseen structures you brushed along the way. One way the invisible is measured is through gravitational lensing. Einstein showed that space curves, and light follows those curves. When a hidden mass lies between you and a distant galaxy, the light from that galaxy bends around it, like a river diverted by stone. To your eyes, the galaxy looks stretched, doubled, or twisted into arcs. The distortion is faint, but measurable. With enough patience, astronomers can turn these distortions into maps of dark matter, spread like mist around clusters of galaxies. It is as if the universe is sketched, not with ink, but with absence. Another method listens to motion. Galaxies spin, their stars wheeling around their centers like dancers around a stage. According to Newton's laws, stars far from the center should move slowly, pulled weakly by the galaxy's visible mass. But when astronomers measure their speed, the stars move too quickly, as if held by an unseen grip. This extra grip is dark matter, adding weight where none is seen. By measuring speeds and orbits, the invisible is charted, outlined by the dance of stars. And then there is the ancient fire, the cosmic microwave background. It is the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, stretched thin as the universe expanded. Satellites like WMAP and Planck capture its whispers, patterns of hot and cold that tell of density, motion, and the strange forces at play in the first seconds. In those patterns, scientists read the ratio of ordinary matter, and dark energy. The invisible reveals itself, not by showing, but by leaving imprints, like footprints left in cooling ash. You picture these tools floating in space, Hubble with its silver body, Planck with its wide dish, the James Webb with its golden mirror. They do not see darkness directly, but they record the trembling of light, the slowing of orbits, the bending of paths. Together, their data weave a picture of what cannot be seen. You realize it is like listening for silence in a crowded room. You cannot hear silence itself, but you hear its presence when voices fall away. Measuring the invisible requires patience, humility, and imagination. Astronomers look for small shifts, tiny angles measured in fractions of arc-seconds, minute variations in temperature, only a fraction of a degree. They gather billions of data points, feed them into equations, and out emerges a ghostly outline of what holds the cosmos together. The process is imperfect, but it grows sharper with time. Each new telescope, each new survey, fills in another piece of the shadow's face. Think of it as weighing the wind. You cannot hold it in your palm, but you see the trees bend. You watch the ripples spread across a lake. You hear the faint whistle at the window. From these signs you know its strength and direction. In the same way, astronomers watch galaxies bend, clusters distort, light scatter, and stars move. The invisible reveals itself in what it touches. It is comforting in a way, to know that science does not demand everything be visible. It listens to whispers, traces edges, studies shadows. You do not need to see dark matter or dark energy to believe they are there. You only need to see how galaxies behave, how light travels, how the universe expands. The evidence is strong enough to trust, like a hand steadying you in the dark. And so, you imagine yourself drifting in space, among instruments of quiet, watching. A telescope unfolds its golden petals to catch light. A satellite circles Earth, scanning the sky for ancient echoes. Scientists wait at their desks, watching data arrive as numbers, maps, faint curves on a graph. Each signal is another thread, woven into the unseen fabric of the cosmos. They may never touch dark matter, never bottle dark energy, but they will know them by their signatures. as you know the ocean by its waves, even when you cannot see the depths below. Measuring the invisible is not about conquering the unknown. It is about learning to live with it, to listen, to trust the patterns. You understand now that what cannot be seen is not emptiness, but richness beyond reach. It shapes galaxies, guides stars, and stretches space itself. It is not absence, but presence too subtle for eyes. The invisible will never fully surrender, but you carry its weight in your mind, its pull in your thoughts. You feel the balance of push and pull, the hidden hands steering the cosmos. And as you rest in that thought, you begin to wonder, if science can measure the unseen so carefully, what other secrets wait, not beyond telescopes, but within the very fabric of time itself. You drift with that question, soft as a tide. If the invisible can be measured, perhaps even time, its flow, its beginning, its end, can also be weighed in ways yet undiscovered. You lie beneath an imagined sky that stretches endless. At first it feels alive, brilliant with stars scattered across the velvet dark, each a tiny furnace of fusion, each giving off warmth that has traveled across millions of years. But as you let your thoughts drift further, you begin to see these stars not only as they are, but as they will become. You see them as stories, each with a beginning, a middle, and an ending, written in light. Every star is a balance between two great forces. Gravity pulls inward, pressing matter tighter and tighter, while nuclear fusion pushes outward, releasing fire and light. For a star to shine, these two forces must be in harmony. You imagine this balance as a slow dance, a cosmic breathing, a rhythm that has lasted for billions of years. And yet, you know it cannot last forever. Eventually, the fuel that feeds fusion will be spent. Even the brightest star carries within itself the quiet seed of its own dimming. You picture stars like candles. Some are small, burning gently, lasting for trillions of years. Others are enormous, flaring fiercely, their lifetimes measured in only a few million. The bigger the flame, the shorter the time it lasts. And so, while the sky feels infinite to your eyes, in truth it is filled with fragile lives, all burning toward inevitable stillness. Already, in distant galaxies, stars have died. Their light, still reaching you, carries echoes of a past where the heavens were more crowded with brightness. As time stretches forward, new stars are born less often. Clouds of gas that once collapsed under gravity to ignite new suns are thinning, scattered apart by the quiet insistence of dark energy. What was once a universe filled with fire is slowly turning into one of embers. You close your eyes and imagine the far future. Billions of years pass like seconds. The Milky Way, your home galaxy, has merged with Andromeda, creating a vast new island of stars. But even in that grand collision, star birth is rare, gas is spent, the nursery lights dim, the fireworks of creation become fewer until they stop altogether. You see a sky where the stars you know today are gone, replaced only by the faint glow of red dwarfs, small stars burning slowly, their lives stretched across unimaginable ages. These red dwarfs will glow for trillions of years, longer than any other star type, but eventually, they too will exhaust their fuel. One by one, they will fade into cold, dark remnants, white dwarfs cooling into black dwarfs, silent corpses of stars invisible in the night. A sky that was once brilliant with fire will fall into shadow. This vision is not sudden. It does not come with an explosion, but with a long, quiet fading, like the slow extinguishing of a bonfire after a festival. Sparks drift upward, fade, and vanish into the night. The fate of the stars is not violent in the end, but gentle, inevitable. Yet the universe holds another force, one that shapes not only the life of stars, but the stage on which they shine. Dark energy stretches space itself, pushing galaxies farther and farther apart. If this expansion continues, there will come a time when galaxies beyond our own will slip over a horizon of distance. Their light will no longer reach us. Even if stars within them still burn, they will vanish from our view. The night sky, once crowded, will grow a cosmic loneliness will set in. You imagine an astronomer living in that future, perhaps a trillion years from now. They look up at their sky and see only the faint stars of their own galaxy, the last survivors. No evidence remains that billions of other galaxies once filled the cosmos. The universe feels smaller to them, more silent, though it has only expanded further. For them, the night is not a vast ocean, but a quiet pond, sealed off from the rest of existence.
The thought is heavy, yet it carries its own strange beauty. For even in such isolation, starlight still shines. Even in the most desolate epoch, there is fire, however dim. You begin to see that the universe does not rush toward nothingness, but toward a kind of stillness, a balance of silence and memory. The death of stars is not the end of wonder. When a star dies, it leaves behind more than heavy elements forged in its furnace, scatter across space: carbon, oxygen, iron, the building blocks of life and worlds. These ashes drift through the dark until they are gathered again, forming planets, moons, even living beings who gaze at the stars and wonder, just as you do. The fate of stars and the fate of life are intertwined. Every breath you take carries the memory of their fire. In this way, the end of stars is not only a fading but a gift. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen in your lungs, all were once created in the heart of a star that lived and died long before your world formed. You are not separate from the star's destiny. You are part of it. Their fate flows through you. And so, you find comfort in imagining the long silence ahead. For even as the stars fade, their essence endures in what they have created. They become memory embodied, fire transformed into being. When you see the night sky today, you are not only looking outward, but also inward, into the ancient fires that shaped you. The stars will vanish, the galaxies will grow lonely, but the memory of their light is already written in the matter of the universe itself. It is written in you.
You take a deep breath and picture the very last star. Small red dwarf, glowing faintly in the dark, long after all others are gone. It flickers quietly, holding on, a stubborn reminder of what once was. You linger with this vision, not with sadness, but with a deep, meditative awe. The universe does not rush. It moves with patience beyond human measure, and in that patience, even endings feel like part of a larger rhythm. As the light of the last star fades, the universe enters a new chapter. One where light is rare, where warmth is memory, where silence is the dominant song. And yet, in that silence, questions remain. Questions that echo softly through the dark, asking what comes after stars, what rises when all suns have set. And as you drift further into thought, you wonder, when starlight finally dies, what new light, if any, might take its place in the endless dark. You close your eyes and imagine warmth slowly fading, not suddenly, not in violence, but in a long, patient unwinding. The stars above, once blazing with youthful fire, have dimmed over billions of years. They flicker like embers at the bottom of a dying hearth, fragile sparks in the endless dark. You picture yourself floating among them, watching each light take its final breath. The idea is simple, but haunting. The universe does not need to collapse in flames or rip itself apart in frenzy. Instead, it may grow colder. Expansion continues. Galaxies stretch further from one another. The great furnaces of stars burn out one by one. The cosmic stage empties not with a crash, but with silence. Scientists call it heat death, though the name feels misleading. It is not fire that dominates the end, but its absence. Heat becomes evenly spread, too thin to move from one place to another. Without difference, without flow, energy has no story left to tell. It is the stillness of absolute balance, the kind of balance that cannot create, cannot change, cannot. You think of warmth the way you feel it now, the soft brush of air against your skin, the steady rhythm of your pulse, the quiet comfort of your breath. All of this is heat moving, energy flowing, molecules dancing in small, invisible ways. But in the universe's distant future, that dance slows. The music of motion fades, the molecules rest. Time stretches on scales your body can hardly imagine. Trillions upon trillions of years pass, and stars grow rare. Some cling to life by fusing the last of their fuel, glowing faintly red. Others collapse into remnants, white dwarfs, neutron stars, black holes. These are the leftovers of fire, the bones of stars. For a while they linger, but even bones decay in time. You float past the remnants, as if wandering through a vast graveyard of light. The black holes remain the longest, pulling in what they can, their gravity unmatched. Yet even they are not eternal. They evaporate through Hawking radiation, bleeding away their energy grain by grain. Slowly they fade to nothing. What is left is a universe without contrast,
without sparks, without warmth. A universe at perfect equilibrium. It sounds peaceful, it sounds final, but it is also lone. You think of sleep, the way it feels to lie down at the end of a long day, to let the tension in your body dissolve, to surrender to the silence of rest. Heat death is like this, but stretched across all of existence. It is a sleep without waking, a stillness without dream. The cosmos exhales and never inhales again, and yet in that image, there is not only sorrow, there is tenderness. You can imagine the universe not as a place ending, but as a being finally allowed to rest. Every galaxy, every star, every atom has played its role, lived its life, and given its light. Nothing is wasted, nothing is lost. The silence is simply the final note of a long, beautiful song. The second law of thermodynamics guides this vision. It says that disorder, entropy, grows with time, energy spreads, systems move toward balance. You have seen this in your own life. A cup of tea left on the table cools until it matches the room. A warm breath in cold air vanishes into mist. Always warmth escapes, slipping into the wider world until all is even. The universe itself follows this rule. Expansion is the cooling, entropy the spread, and heat death the last breath. But laws of physics can feel like poems. You can hold them not as rigid rules, but as stories told by nature. Entropy is not just disorder, but the unfolding of inevitability. It is the passage of time written into matter. You are part of it, your body slowly exchanging heat with the world, your life unfolding within the same current that moves stars and galaxies. You too are a spark in this vast cooling sea. The stillness of heat death is not sudden, it is gentle, an easing into balance. It takes longer than imagination can follow. If your life is a second, the age of the universe so far is a year. The journey to heat death is millions of years, stretched beyond that. You cannot truly count it, you can only float in the thought of it, the way you float in the quiet before sleep. Some scientists call it the most probable fate of the universe. Not collapse, not tearing, but quiet expansion into equilibrium. Yet they too admit that it is not a certainty. The future is vast, and dark energy may play tricks. Perhaps expansion will speed into violence. Perhaps new physics, not yet discovered, will awaken new possibilities. For now, heat death remains the gentlest of predictions, the quietest end. You let yourself picture it more clearly. Galaxies invisible, stretched beyond sight. Stars gone, their ashes scattered. Black holes whispering away their last radiation. Space stretched so thin that nothing ever meets, nothing ever touches. At first it feels bleak, but then you imagine the comfort of stillness. After so much chaos, so much creation, so much fire, a deep, unbroken calm. Like a vast night with no dawn, it is frightening and soothing at once. The thought asks you to release your hold on beginnings and endings, to accept that stories can conclude, not with catastrophe, but with silence. It is the silence that holds the weight of everything that came before. You drift deeper into that vision. The cosmos itself seems to close its eyes. Darkness becomes complete, but not empty. It is filled with memory, the record of light that once burned, the echo of galaxies that once sang, the shadows of atoms that once. In this sleep without end, nothing is erased, it simply rests.
And as you rest with it, you feel the rhythm of your own breathing. Inhale, exhale, expansion, stillness. You realize that the universe's fate is written in the same language as your own body's rhythms. To live is to move, to end is to rest. Both belong to the same story. The thought soothes you like a lullaby. You sense the inevitability of rest, not as a tragedy but as a gift, a chance for everything to finally let go, to find balance, to sleep. The universe becomes a vast bed of silence, and you lie upon it gently, watching the last traces of warmth drift into stillness. The stars are gone, but their light lingers in memory. The galaxies are silent, but their beauty is remembered in imagination. You close your eyes and feel the quiet, and for a moment the end feels less like an end, and more like the soft completion of a long and patient dream. And just as you begin to surrender to that dream, another thought whispers, if this is how the story closes, could there be another way it might begin again? The universe drifts towards stillness, but your mind lingers on a question. Could silence itself be a doorway, and might the end of one story open into the beginning of another? You imagine yourself standing in a space that stretches endlessly in every direction. There are no stars above you, no planets beneath you, not even the faintest dust drifting across your path. It is emptiness, or at least it appears so. The silence is complete, the kind that almost presses against your skin, and you wonder if this is what nothing truly means. But then, you pause, you listen, and you realize that even here, in this infinite void, nothingness is not nothing at all. Science tells you that what we call empty space is alive with quiet activity. A vacuum is not a hollow shell, but a restless ocean. It shivers with invisible fluctuations, particles that blink into existence and vanish again in less than a heartbeat. You cannot see them, yet they are there, filling the silence with a rhythm too fast, too small, for your eyes to catch. The universe hums beneath the veil of stillness, like a hidden choir rehearsing a song you can only half hear. You take another step into the void, and the emptiness ripples like water beneath your feet. It is not a place of absence, but of potential. Every patch of what looks like empty space is alive with vacuum energy, a subtle, ever-present tide that exerts a push on the universe itself. It stretches the cosmos outward, expanding it faster and faster, like invisible fingers pulling on the fabric of reality. Physicists call this the quantum vacuum, but you can think of it as a kind of cosmic breath, inhale, exhale, a never-ending whisper of creation and disappearance. Out of this field, particles briefly emerge, like sparks from flint, only to fade again before they can be caught. This is not the nothing of silence, it is the nothing of a hidden pulse, a presence disguised as absence. You remember how, as a child, you might have lain awake in the dark of your bedroom, certain you were surrounded by stillness, only to realize you could hear faint sounds, the creak of the house settling, the hum of an appliance, your own breath moving in and out. Nothingness was never truly nothing. It was simply quiet enough for you to notice subtler things. The vacuum of the universe is much the same. As you drift deeper into this imagined space, you realize that emptiness is the stage on which everything else plays its role. Without the unseen energy of the void, galaxies would not drift apart. Without its fluctuations, stars and planets might not exist at all. The seeds of structure in the cosmos, the faint irregularities that grew into galaxies and clusters, were born from the restless shimmer of quantum nothingness in the earliest moments after the Big Bang. Think of it, all the stars you see at night, all the worlds that orbit them, even your own body, may have been shaped by the tiny fleeting quivers of particles flickering inside an ancient void. The greatest somethings were sculpted by the subtlest nothing. You breathe, slowly, letting the thought settle over you. Nothing is not empty. It is fertile ground. It is the silence before a song, the pause before a word, the space on the canvas that allows the colors to stand out. Without nothingness, there would be no room for something. You wonder what it means for your own life. Perhaps the quiet spaces you sometimes call emptiness, the pauses, the lulls, the nights where nothing seems to happen, are not truly barren either. They may be full of subtle pulses you cannot yet see, waiting to shape what comes next. Just as the vacuum is not void, perhaps your stillness is not wasted. It may be the hum beneath your own unfolding story. Scientists still puzzle over the vacuum, measuring its faint influence on the stars, debating how much of this invisible energy fills the cosmos. Some imagine that vacuum energy could change over time, subtly shifting the fate of the universe. Others see it as eternal, a constant companion, a reminder that nothing is always more than it seems. You feel comfort in this mystery. Even when the universe seems stripped bare, there is still a current running underneath. You close your eyes again, and imagine floating in that boundless space. The stars have gone, the galaxies have vanished, and only darkness surrounds you. Yet in the quiet fabric of reality itself, the pulse continues. Tiny bursts of energy flicker in and out, like fireflies too quick to catch. They do not last long enough to warm your hands, but they are real enough to shape the destiny of all things. The illusion of nothing is that it looks so still, but when you tune yourself to its rhythm, you realize it is alive. The vacuum is not the absence of being, it is being in disguise. It is a field without edges, humming softly, endlessly. You are never truly surrounded by nothing. You are always held within the fullness of an invisible ocean.
Your thoughts drift back to the night sky. The spaces between the stars are not empty gaps, but living fabric. Each patch of darkness, no matter how wide, is filled with energy you cannot see. Space is never truly vacant. It carries within it the quiet architecture of everything that was, and everything that might still come to be. You let that realization cradle you as though it were a soft blanket. The void is not to be feared, because it is not barren, it is patient, it is generous. It holds the seeds of all creation, waiting quietly for their time to unfold. And so you rest, knowing that when you gaze into darkness, whether into the night sky or into the silent spaces of your own life, you are not looking at nothing. You are looking at the fullness of a field too subtle to see, a richness too quiet to disturb you. The illusion of nothing dissolves, leaving you with the comfort of knowing that you are always surrounded by more than your eyes can perceive. The universe whispers through its stillness, reminding you that even the quietest places are alive. You drift in that thought, suspended in the hum of the unseen, feeling the gentle current of vacuum energy flowing through the fabric of reality. It carries you onward, deeper, toward the next wonder waiting beyond silence. You sense the void humming beneath your feet, not an emptiness but a secret fullness, and you wonder, if even nothing is alive, then what hidden truths might time itself be carrying forward? You drift into the thought that maybe this universe, vast as it seems, is not alone. The galaxies you know, the stars you have imagined, the light you have followed, all of them might be just one bubble, floating in a far greater ocean.
You feel the edge of imagination blur with the edge of science, and together they form a soft horizon, endless and quiet. Physicists sometimes whisper the word multiverse, as though it is a secret too large to speak aloud. They do not mean it as fantasy, though it sounds like a dream. They mean it as a possibility written in equations, in the ways particles behave, in the odd balance of forces that allow you to be here now. They wonder, if space can expand here, why not elsewhere? If energy can shape this universe, could it not shape countless others, each with its own laws, its own silence, its own beginning and end? You picture bubbles rising in still water. Some are large, some small, some touch and merge, others drift apart forever. Each bubble carries its own fragile world inside, unaware of the others, except through faint ripples in the sea. The universe you live in might be one of those bubbles, ordinary to itself, yet extraordinary in the larger sea. Dark energy takes on a new role in this vision. In your universe, it drives expansion outward, making galaxies race away. But in another bubble, dark energy could be weaker, pulling less, letting galaxies cling longer before drifting apart. Or it could be stronger, stretching space so violently that stars never form, leaving only thin gas adrift in endless night. Each variation would shape a very different story of existence. You imagine standing at the edge of your bubble, pressing your hand to the unseen wall, feeling vibrations of others beyond. You cannot see them, but you sense the hum of possibility. It is like listening at a closed door, hearing faint music from a room you cannot enter. You do not know the tune, yet it reminds you that life elsewhere may be playing its own quiet symphony. Cosmologists call one version of this idea eternal inflation. They say the Big Bang might not have been the only beginning. Instead, space may be constantly sprouting new regions, each inflating into its own universe, each sealed off by distance so great no signal could cross. Your own universe might be just one wave in this infinite tide. The thought is dizzying, yet strangely comforting. It means your sky, for all its vastness, is not the only sky. It means the rules you see, gravity holding planets, dark energy pushing galaxies, are not the only rules. Somewhere there may be skies without stars, or skies brighter than you can imagine, with suns burning in colors unknown to your eyes. And yet you cannot leave your bubble. You cannot cross the silence between universes. All you can do is dream of them, and listen to the whispers carried in theory and imagination. Perhaps that is enough, to know that your own universe, so seemingly absolute, may be just one possibility among countless others. You breathe in the idea of variation. It feels like walking through a hall of mirrors, each reflecting a different version of reality. One mirror shows a universe where matter clumped faster, and stars lived short, violent lives. Another shows one where dark energy was too strong, and expansion tore space apart before anything formed. Another still shows a balance much like your own, but with subtle differences, perhaps no earth, perhaps no humans, perhaps a silence where your voice never rose. You do not need to believe in all these reflections to find peace in them. You need only to rest in the humility they bring. The universe you call home is one strand in a tapestry too wide to see. You are a thread woven into a pattern that might stretch far beyond this bubble's horizon. You picture your own existence as small, yes, but also luminous, because even if other universes exist, you have this one, this sky, this chance to look outward and wonder, this soft moment of imagining what could be. The whispers of the multiverse remind you that to be alive here and now is to carry something rare, awareness itself, awareness that asks, what else might there be? The quiet deepens as you float in this vision. You see the bubbles drift, infinite in number, each carrying its own history, each swelling outward in endless silence, and you realize if there are countless variations, then the meaning of everything is far larger than you could ever hold, and yet you hold a piece of it. Simply by being here, awake to the thought, perhaps one day, science will learn to measure those whispers, perhaps some echo, some faint trace, will reveal that other universes truly exist, or perhaps they will remain forever beyond reach. A mystery too vast for proof, but even so, the idea carries you gently like a tide. It shows you that the story of existence may be greater than the pages you have seen, and so you drift with the thought that your universe, with its galaxies and stars, with its dark energy pulling everything apart, is not the only dream being told. It is one voice in a chorus, one ripple in an endless sea. The others you cannot hear, yet their silence surrounds you like a second sky. You breathe into that silence, sensing the weight of possibilities, and you wonder, if universes are countless, then what role does chance play in making this one, the one that holds you, feel so perfectly tuned? You rest in the stillness, and into that quiet comes the language of numbers. They stretch before you like constellations, neat points on an invisible grid. Each digit, each symbol, is a star of thought, precise, brilliant and ordered. Mathematics does not sway like poetry, yet in its own way it sings, and in that song lies the attempt to understand a hidden force you call dark energy. Scientists build their models with equations as sailors build maps from stars. Each line of math is a path drawn across an ocean too vast to cross directly. They use symbols to hold the immeasurable, to capture the flow of galaxies, to describe how expansion accelerates, to predict how the universe might unfold. You imagine chalk dust rising from a blackboard, white lines trailing like comets, arcs of reason against a dark void. Numbers bring order where chaos threatens. They tell you how planets orbit, how tides rise, how light bends through glass. Mathematics does not lie. It holds truth with a stern, crystalline clarity. But when it touches dark energy, the song falters. The notes refuse to land on the scale. The rhythm breaks, leaving wide pauses where understanding should be. You think of it as a melody missing chord. The instruments play on, telescopes gathering light, satellites measuring distance. But when scientists transcribe the tune, something is absent. Dark energy resists the neat lines of the staff, spilling into silence between notes. Equations hum and strain, but the harmony remains incomplete. You recall how, centuries ago, mathematics described the pull of gravity. Newton's laws explained falling apples and orbiting moons. Later, Einstein stretched those equations into curved space-time, explaining how mass bends light, how time itself can slow. The mathematics was astonishingly beautiful, precise as lace, and it matched the universe like a lock fits a key. But when cosmologists turn those same tools toward dark energy, the key rattles uselessly in the lock. Some theories suggest that quantum fields, restless even in emptiness, could be the source of this expansion. The math is written, the numbers are tallied, but the predictions are wrong. Not slightly, but staggeringly. The calculation overshoots reality by a factor so large that it is as though you measured the height of a blade of grass and instead found the distance to the sun. This failure is called the worst prediction in physics. It lingers like a haunting, a reminder that mathematics, for all its elegance, still falters before the mystery of dark energy. You walk slowly through this thought, as though moving along a corridor lined with unfinished equations. Symbols hang incomplete on the walls, waiting for a hand that can fill in what is missing. The corridor is silent, yet you sense that somewhere in the silence, a deeper pattern waits to be seen. It is strange, To know that the language that describes so much cannot yet describe this, and yet you find comfort in the limitation. Mystery keeps the world alive. If mathematics could answer everything, perhaps wonder would dim. Instead, the gaps in knowledge shimmer like open windows, inviting you to lean closer, to breathe the fresh air of the unknown. Numbers can be rigid, but mystery softens them. An equation is not a cage. It is a lighthouse. It shines as far as it can, but beyond the beam stretches a night ocean still uncharted. You are not frightened of that dark water. You rest in it, letting your thoughts drift like small boats, knowing that beyond the reach of calculation lies possibility. And so you imagine, somewhere in the unseen mathematics, a hidden symmetry, a deeper equation, perhaps simple, perhaps profound, that could bind dark energy with the other forces of the universe. Perhaps one day someone will write it, a string of symbols so elegant, so inevitable, that the silence will finally break into song. Until then, the gaps hum quietly, and you let the unsolved be part of the beauty. You notice how even your breath follows a rhythm, in and out, a pattern as natural as numbers. The beat of your heart is a steady equation, written not in chalk, but in blood and muscle. Mathematics is not only in distant galaxies, it is here within you, keeping time in your veins, reminding you that order and life are kin. Perhaps the same truth exists at cosmic scale, an unseen pattern still waiting to be read, and so you surrender to the unknown. You do not need every equation solved to feel whole. You do not need the silence filled to find peace. The mathematics of mystery is not just about answers. It is about the balance between clarity and shadow, about resting in a world that is partly explained, partly hidden, and wholly wondrous. As you float deeper into this thought, the equations fade, their chalk dust settling back into the void. The numbers drift apart like constellations fading at dawn. What remains is the hum of the universe itself, steady, unbroken, patient. It carries you gently, reminding you that even the greatest questions can be companions, not burdens. You breathe into the quiet gaps between the numbers, and you wonder, if mathematics cannot yet sing the full song of dark energy, what hidden instruments of the universe are still waiting to be heard? You arrive at the threshold of a room that hums with refrigeration and patience. Cables snake across the floor like sleeping vines. A soft green light blinks on a rack of electronics, keeping time for instruments that rarely speak. Far below, past layers of concrete and ancient rock, a detector waits in the dark. It is here because the Earth itself is a shield, a thick blanket meant to hush the storm of cosmic particles, so that something far quieter, if it exists, can be heard. Scientists give the hope many names: mediator, quantum of a field, scalar, vector. But the wish is the same. If dark energy has a particle, perhaps it will leave a mark. Perhaps it jitters an atom by an immeasurable hair, nudges a mirror by a trillionth of a wavelength, or shifts a clock by a breath of a second in a million years. If there is a particle, there must be a footprint, and so floors are polished, cables grounded, air filtered, and the room held at a constancy bordering on devotion. You move through the lab like a late guest in a library. Cryostats sit like silver. Shielding rises in layers: lead, polyethylene, water, around a small heart of liquid noble gas or chilled crystal. The instrument listens for an energy deposit, no larger than the brush of a moth's wing. Outside, mountains stand indifferent. Inside, the detector is tuned to hear a rumor of the universe breathing. The search is not for fireworks, but for a shiver too small to trust without years of repetition. This is why the experiments live so far underground, to soften the world's cosmic rays that scribble bright lines through cameras mostly die in the overburden, leaving a silence where faint new letters might appear. Neutrons are slowed and counted. Radon is scrubbed from the air. Even a fingerprint on copper can glow with radioactivity. Gloves are worn like that. In the quiet that remains, the detector holds its breath and waits for the unlikely visitor that would rewrite the story. Not all listening happens in cavern. On the surface, delicate torsion balances ask whether gravity falters at tiny distances. If a new force whispers between masses, a pendulum's twist will write its presence in micron. In space,
Atomic clocks compare their beats to absurd precision, as if asking time itself whether a hidden field tugs at the metronome. Between galaxies, the geometry of expansion fixes boundaries. If a particle fuels the push, its influence must match the sky's patient arithmetic. And yet the screens mostly show nothing new. Only the background thrum of known physics, the chatter of impurities, the occasional cosmic survivor slipping through the rock to scribble a bright spike and then be gone. So far absence has been the rule, but absence is a kind of measurement. Each null result closes a door gently and labels it, "Not here," narrowing the mansion of possibility room by room, until the remaining hallways are fewer, clearer, and worth the longer walk. You wait with the scientists and feel their peculiar calm. They are not hunting a creature that can be cornered. They are courting a presence that may never descend to touch a sensor. When a run ends with no signal, they tighten bolts, polish copper, cool the target deeper, and begin again. The work becomes devotion disguised as procedure. Patience hardens into technique. Silence becomes data. A new limit is drawn like a shoreline after a slow tide, and theory adjusts its maps. Now and then the quiet is interrupted by a rumor, an excess of events, a bump in a spectrum, a misbehaving background that refuses to explain itself. The room gathers. Graphs bloom on screens, whispers skate along the benches.
Air like weather. Then a gasket outgasses. A cable is reseated. A leak in calibration is found. A cosmic ray took a lucky path. The bump smooths. The rumor dissolves. The lab returns to its long winter of listening. You think of the particle that isn't there as a lesson in humility. Perhaps dark energy is not made of particles at all. Perhaps it is pressure woven into space, a property that does not clump, does not scatter, does not knock on matter's door. A particle is a friendly concept, something that can be swapped like a coin across interactions. But the universe is not obliged to be friendly. Dark energy may simply be a smooth, persistent breath that never breaks into quanta we can net and count. Even so, searching matter. The act of looking repaints the map. Every limit sharpens theory like a blade. When detectors grow quiet enough to hear nothing, that nothing becomes eloquent. It tells you how gentle the unseen must be. The parameter space shrinks like a coastline eroded by tidal truth, leaving clean cliffs where castles of speculation once stood. In the quiet, knowledge accumulates as frost does, grain by careful grain until a new shape glistens in morning light. Under the mountain again, a student checks a logbook. The entries are simple, almost monastic. Temperature stable, backgrounds nominal, live time accrued, run continues. Outside, seasons change. Snow gathers, melts, returns. The detector's calendar is measured in exposure, not holidays. You feel the comfort of such scales, the way they stretch the mind until impatience falls away like a shed leaf. The lab keeps faith, not with excitement, but with duration. What you feel most, waiting here, is the friendliness of the unknown. It does not sneer or hide. It simply asks you to match its scale. To learn from dark energy, you must become slow. You must cool your hopes, as the detectors cool their crystals. You must be willing to take no for an answer, and call it information. You must, in a sense, adopt the universe's tempo and let the long measurement teach you how to listen. In that tempo, the particle that isn't there becomes a guide. It teaches you to love the interval between questions and answers. It asks you to notice how much of science is the art of narrowing, how often progress means moving from the great unruled to the almost ruled. It reminds you that patience is not a pause but a method, the way a long exposure turns faint stars into a river of light. The lab lights dim to night mode, pumps breathe, rocks press their old weight on the walls. In the control room, a small bell will chime if the detector hears something new, but you are content with the soft fidelity of its silence. Absence fills the room like a clean tone. Somewhere above, the sky is full of stars not one instrument will touch tonight, yet in the quiet under the mountain you hear them differently, as if their long light were consenting to wait with you. You keep listening still. You step back from the quiet instruments and feel time lengthen around you, as if the universe were teaching you its slow secret, one you will carry into the next question you are almost, but not quite ready to ask. You have always lived in a world of speed, the ticking of clocks, the flashing of screens, the endless urgency of tasks. Yet when you lift your gaze to the night sky, you encounter a truth that moves differently. The stars above you shimmer with calm certainty, not rushing, not breaking stride, but drifting on a timescale your body can barely grasp. It is here in this unhurried sky that you sense the presence of the universe's slow secret. Dark energy does not reveal itself in explosions or brilliant flashes of light. It does not roar like thunder or blaze like lightning. Instead, it hums like a background tone, quiet but unyielding, stretching the cosmos further and further apart. Not in seconds, not in hours, not even in centuries, but in epochs, measured across billions of years. You breathe slowly. For a moment you let yourself feel what it is like to exist on such a time scale. The beat of your heart, so quick and fragile, becomes a tiny metronome in a song that stretches across the ages. Your life is but a whisper in the symphony of expansion, and yet that whisper is part of it, inseparable from the whole. Imagine a single galaxy, one among hundreds of billions. It is not racing wildly across the universe. It is drifting quietly, as if placed upon a current. That current is dark energy. You cannot see it, cannot hold it, yet you can trace its fingerprints in the growing spaces between the galaxies themselves. You may picture the universe as a loaf of bread, rising in the oven. Each raisin in the dough is a galaxy. As the dough expands, the raisins move apart, not because they are moving through the bread, but because the bread itself is stretched. Dark energy is the yeast, silent and invisible, working everywhere at once. But unlike bread, the universe has no crust, no outer shell. It rises without boundary, a vast and patient expansion without edge. This expansion is not dramatic. In the span of your lifetime, if you could watch the stars tonight and then again tomorrow, they would appear the same. The constellations would still be steady, the patterns familiar. But if you could step outside time and watch a billion years pass as easily as a breath, you would see the galaxies drift apart like petals carried on a wind that never ends. You feel the paradox of this truth. So slow it seems unmoving, so powerful it reshapes the fate of everything. Dark energy is the patience of the cosmos. It does not push with violence, but with persistence. It is the whisper that becomes a tide, the tide that becomes a flood, the flood that becomes the destiny of the star. You sit with this thought, and in the stillness you begin to feel a kinship with it. Your own life too has been shaped more by quiet persistence than by sudden bursts. A habit repeated daily becomes the arc of a lifetime. A choice made gently again and again becomes who you are. So it is with the universe, so it is with dark energy. The galaxies obey its pull without ever hearing it. The cosmic web stretches like silk, delicate and vast, each strand drawn outward by this invisible hand. Clusters of galaxies that once clung together will drift apart, until even their light will fade beyond reach. Future skies will grow emptier, more silent, more distant. The patience of dark energy is not gentle for comfort's sake. It is steady because it must be. You picture the far future, a time when distant galaxies have disappeared from view, their light stretched so thin it can no longer arrive. The beings who live then, if any do, will look at the night sky and see only the stars of their own galaxy. They will wonder if the universe is small, if it ends at the edge of their vision, and they will not know what you know now, that it was once rich with countless lights, all carried away by the slow secret of expansion. There is melancholy in this thought, but there is also comfort, because the universe is not rushing toward its silence. It is drifting there slowly, step by step, like waves smoothing stones on the shore, and you, alive in this moment, are among the rare witnesses to a universe still filled with galaxies. You live in an era when the stars still speak to one another across space. You close your eyes and imagine the breath of dark energy as a wind that never stops. It does not hurry. It does not rest. It does not lose strength. It simply continues, steady and sure, carrying the universe further into itself. And in that rhythm, you find your own stillness, because you too are shaped by slowness. Your body, grown from the patient weaving of cells, your thoughts, carved from years of learning, memory, forgetting and remembering again, your being stretched across time not as flashes but as waves. The cosmos is not teaching you urgency, it is showing you the art of quiet transformation. Dark energy is the tide beneath all tides. You cannot stop it. You cannot measure its full intent. You can only rest within it, as galaxies do, as stars do, as the fabric of space itself does. Perhaps this is the secret. that the universe is less about sudden revelations and more about infinite patience, that the greatest mysteries are not shouted, but whispered across billions of years, that the shape of everything is written not in lightning strikes, but in the steady breath of the void. And as you drift with this thought, you realize that mystery itself has no urgency. It does not beg you to solve it, only to sit with it, as you sit with the night sky, as you sit with yourself. Dark energy asks nothing of you but this: to breathe, to notice, to be carried. And so you are carried, slowly, like a galaxy drifting on the patient tide. You open your eyes to the stars once more, and they seem unchanged. But deep within you, you sense their distance growing, their paths forever drawn outward. The universe is stretching, and you are within that stretch, part of its story, part of its patience. You smile softly, letting the thought settle, letting the vastness cradle you, and in the cradle of that thought, you prepare to turn toward the next mystery. Because the slow secret of the universe is not its final whisper. It is only a step on the path, leading to questions even deeper, even quiet. And so you breathe with the universe's patience, letting it remind you that not all secrets are revealed in haste. Some drift outward, carrying you gently toward the next silence, where another mystery waits to be heard. You walk slowly to the edge of a great plain of thought, and there, stretched before you, is a horizon unlike any other. It is not marked by mountains or oceans, not by the sharp line where sky meets land. Instead, this horizon is made of ideas. It is the boundary where our questions reach further than our answers, where human knowledge stops and the silence of the unknown begins. Dark energy stands firmly at this frontier. For centuries, humanity has reached further, carrying torches of science into the night. We have measured stars, traced their movements, counted galaxies, and followed the faint ripples of the universe's earliest light. But when we encounter dark energy, the torchlight flickers, the darkness resists illumination. It stretches endlessly, patient, unconcerned with how deeply we wish to know it. You picture yourself on a cliff of understanding, gazing out across a sea of mystery. Behind you lies the land of certainty, Newton's laws, Einstein's equations, the carefully charted constellations of knowledge. Ahead, the air turns thin and quiet. No compass works here, no map has been drawn. To step further is to step into the realm of speculation, into theories not yet tested, into whispers instead of answers. Scientists gather at this edge, carrying instruments like lanterns. They place telescopes on mountains, build detectors deep underground, launch satellites into orbit, and program computers to sift through endless data. Each effort is an outstretched hand into the darkness, hoping to touch the unseen. Yet dark energy remains elusive, like fog that retreats the moment you approach. It is humbling to pause here with them. For all the brilliance of our mathematics and the sharpness of our technology, the truth of dark energy lies just out of reach. You feel the tension between progress and limitation, between the thirst to know and the acceptance that some truths may remain veiled for lifetimes. And yet, there is beauty here. At the edge of knowledge, wonder deepens. The unknown is not a wall, but a sky. It does not end the journey, it opens it. Standing here, you can almost hear the universe whisper, there is more than you can measure, more than you can imagine, more than you may ever name. You breathe slowly, letting this awareness settle over you. The horizon stretches endlessly, but you do not feel fear. Instead, you feel a gentle comfort, as if the vastness itself is a soft blanket laid over restless thought. To know that mystery endures is to know that wonder will never leave. The edge of knowledge is not sharp. It is soft and shifting. Some questions once lay beyond this boundary. Once, humanity did not know what stars were. Once, we could not measure the speed of light. Once, we did not believe in galaxies beyond our own. Each discovery pushed the horizon outward, yet each also revealed how much further the unknown extends. For every question answered, 10 more arise. This rhythm, progress, revelation, mystery, becomes a kind of heartbeat for the cosmos. You listen to it now, steady and calm. You realize that the edge of knowledge is not a sign of failure, but of life. It proves that there is always more to reach for, more to wonder about, more to dream into being. Dark energy remains a symbol of this. We know it must exist, because without it, the universe's accelerating expansion cannot be explained. But what it is, we do not know. A field? A property of space itself? A mistake in our equations? Perhaps something entirely outside the frame of human thought. At this horizon, possibilities drift like clouds, ungraspable but quietly beautiful. You imagine scientists writing equations on blackboards, filling page after page with symbols, only to stop, lean back, and sigh at the spaces left unsolved. Those gaps are not failures, they are invitations. They remind us that mystery is not an enemy, but a partner, pulling us forward, keeping our curiosity alive. Here at the edge, you sit with your own thoughts. You realize that knowledge and mystery are not opposites. They are companions. One cannot exist without the other. To know everything would be to lose wonder. To know nothing would be to lose direction. But here at the balance point, you can have both, the guidance of knowledge and the inspiration of mystery. You close your eyes and breathe again. The silence at this horizon is not empty. It is full of potential. It hums softly, like a note that has not yet been played. The universe holds its secrets like a musician who has written a symphony but has only shared the opening bar. The rest remains beyond the curtain, waiting, or perhaps never meant to be revealed. And maybe that is enough. You feel no urgency to rip the curtain away. You feel no impatience at the gap. Instead, you allow yourself to rest in the awareness that some edges are meant to stay edges, that some mysteries are meant to remain mysterious. There is peace in the unsolved. As you rest here, the horizon glows faintly, like the thin line between night and dawn. Beyond it, you sense there is more, always more. You let yourself drift, knowing that the journey does not end at the edge of knowledge. It continues in another way, through imagination, through dreams, through the quiet comfort of accepting what cannot yet be named. And in that comfort, you wonder, if dark energy is the silence at the heart of the universe, then perhaps it is also the silence at the heart of you, a space within, patient and enduring, where not every question has an answer, but every question has a place to rest. You stay there breathing with the horizon, knowing you stand on the threshold of both ignorance and discovery. The edge of knowledge is not a place of despair, but a place of peace. It is where the known and the unknown shake hands, where the torchlight flickers but does not go out, where mystery stretches forever yet invites you to linger. And as you linger, you realize something gentle and profound, that even the act of not knowing can cradle you like a lullaby, rocking you softly into wonder, into calm, and as you lean into this horizon, you feel the quiet question rise within you. If knowledge has an edge, then what lies beyond it? You close your eyes and imagine the universe breathing, a long, slow inhale, galaxies drawn together in a single embrace, and then perhaps a soft exhale, stars drifting outward once more. This image feels ancient, like a rhythm older than life itself. For centuries, thinkers have wondered if the universe is bound to a cycle, expansion followed by collapse, then expansion again. A story without a final page, only chapters that loop in quiet repetition. The idea is comforting. It suggests nothing is ever truly lost, that even stars swallowed in silence may someday burn again. But the question remains, will the universe truly return? Or has dark energy written a different ending? One where the story stretches forever, like a sentence without a period, drifting off into endless space. You imagine two possible futures. In one, gravity gathers its strength, galaxies slow then pause, like a dancer caught mid-step, and then gently but irresistibly, everything begins to fall inward. Clusters of stars collapse, the night sky grows crowded, until at last, all is drawn into a brilliant furnace, a big crunch, a return to the seed of beginnings. In the other vision, dark energy continues its quiet work. Galaxies are pushed farther and farther apart. Distances widen until even the nearest neighbor becomes unreachable, a memory fading into the dark. Stars burn out, one by one, leaving only cold embers, and the universe becomes a canvas stretched thin, paint faded, frame empty, an endless silence with no promise of return. Which vision is true? No one can say with certainty. Dark energy seems relentless, its hand gentle but unyielding. Measurements suggest expansion is not slowing, but quickening, a quiet acceleration, as though the universe has chosen to drift outward without looking back. Still, you dream of return. You imagine the comfort of cycles, where every end is just another beginning, where ashes can kindle flame. Even if dark energy resists,
The dream itself feels nourishing, like a lullaby whispered to ease you into rest. Cycles are written into the very fabric of life. You see them everywhere: the rising and setting of the sun, the ebb and flow of the tide, the beating of your heart, steady as a drum, marking your own small rhythm. It feels only natural to imagine the cosmos following the same pattern, breathing in, breathing out. Perhaps this is why the big crunch feels so gentle. Despite its violent imagery, it is not destruction but return, a folding back into the source, a homecoming, a gathering of scattered stars into one quiet center. And yet the numbers whisper another truth. The data hints that no such gathering will occur, that dark energy is too strong, too persistent, too woven into the bones of reality. It will not permit collapse. The dream of return may remain only a dream, but even dreams matter. They shape how you see the present. They allow you to rest in possibilities, to hold more than one vision in your mind, to live with uncertainty, as though it were a companion, not an enemy. So you let yourself wander further into the dream. You imagine the collapse not as violence, but as music returning to silence, notes drifting into rest, a long pause, not an ending, and then, perhaps, a new melody beginning, different but connected, a continuation across timelessness. If such a cycle were real, what would return look like? Would galaxies reform as they once were? Would new stars be born with echoes of the old written in their light? Would life rise again, different but familiar, shaped by the memory of all that came before? You cannot know, but even asking feels like part of the dream. To wonder is to touch the edge of infinity, to hold mystery as though it were a fragile stone in your palm, smooth, cool, waiting. There is comfort too in imagining no return, for if the universe drifts outward forever, it is a reminder of impermanence. That beauty exists, not because it lasts, but because it shines briefly and brilliantly against the dark. The stars do not need eternity to matter, they need only their brief flare, their warmth, their gift of light carried across impossible distance. And so you rest between these visions, the cycle that renews and the horizon that fades into silence. Both are true in their own way, both worthy of being held like lullabies, soft songs for your mind as it drifts. The dream of return whispers to your human longing. You are built to hope for circles, for second chances, for endings that fold into beginnings. Perhaps the universe knows this about you, and so it leaves the question open, an unfinished page, so you may rest in wonder. The night deepens around you. You feel the stillness of your body, the rhythm of your breath, your own small cycle, echoing the cosmic one. Each inhale is creation, each exhale is return. Within you the dream already exists.
Whether or not the stars share it, dark energy hums on, quiet and steady. It may carry the universe outward forever, a song of expansion with no refrain. Or perhaps one day, the melody will pause, and the notes will fold inward, returning to silence before beginning again. You do not need the answer tonight, you only need the wonder, the softness of possibilities, the calm of unknowing, the peace of resting in both visions. You close your eyes and let the dream of return wash over you like a tide. You are small, yes, but you are carried within the same mystery. Whether the universe circles back or drifts on without end, you are part of its story woven into its breath. And as you sink deeper into rest, the dream lingers. You imagine endings that are not endings, beginnings hidden inside closures, a cosmos that, like you, longs to return to its own heart. Still, a question lingers at the edge of your thoughts. If the dream of return is only a dream, what then becomes of the silence beyond? And so you drift into sleep, carried by the dream of cycles. Yet somewhere in the quiet, another thought begins to stir. What if silence itself holds its own kind of song, waiting to be heard? You close your eyes, and the silence is wider than a horizon. The quiet feels infinite, yet within it there is a pulse, not of your heart, but of something larger, something woven into the fabric of everything. You breathe in, and the breath feels like it stretches beyond your chest, as though it belongs, not only to you but also to the great, expanding universe. The truth is simple, though it often hides beneath the noise of daily life. You are not apart from the cosmos. You are an expression of. You are the universe noticing itself, pausing for a moment of reflection. When you imagine galaxies drifting farther apart, when you picture the silent acceleration driven by dark energy, You are not an outsider watching from some safe, distant shore. You are inside it. Your place is within the unfolding story, as real and as natural as the stars themselves. Think of your body for a moment. It feels small, temporary, fragile, and in many ways it is, but every atom inside you was born in fire. The hydrogen in your blood is nearly as old as time itself, forged in the first seconds after the Big Bang. The carbon that shapes your muscles and your thoughts was created in the cores of ancient stars, and later scattered into space when those stars died in luminous supernovae. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your veins, all of it is stellar ash, drifting through the cosmos until it gathered into the earth, and eventually into you. So when you lie here, resting, you do not lie apart from the universe. You are its child, you are its continuation, you are its memory, spoken softly in human form. Now think of the universe's expansion, the silent stretching of space itself. This expansion is not something happening out there on a distant stage, beyond your reach. It is happening everywhere, including right here, in the invisible dimensions between the molecules in the air you breathe. The same dark energy that pushes galaxies apart also hums faintly through the emptiness around you. It does not single out stars over people or galaxies over body. Its influence is universal. Its reach is absolute. This means your place in the expanding night is not at its edges, not as a spectator, but woven within its fabric. You expand with it, you drift with it, you are a thread in its endless, flowing tapestry. When you imagine the night sky, you might feel small. The Milky Way stretches overhead, and the scale seems impossible to contain. But smallness is only one perspective. If you shift your view, you see that you are not small but proportionate, exactly the right size to hold awareness. You are the scale at which the universe can contemplate itself. Mountains do not wonder, oceans do not question, stars burn, but they do not pause to reflect. But you in your quiet room can look at the stars and ask what, and in asking you are no longer just a fragment, you are the echo of the whole. Notice how your breath continues, steady and patient. It is the simplest rhythm, and yet it carries the same calm inevitability as the universe itself. Expansion happens slowly and visibly, across billions of years. Breath happens quickly, softly, across the span of minutes. Both are movements of life, both are reminders of continuity. Now imagine yourself floating in the great ocean of space. You drift, not lost, but gently carried. Around you, galaxies spiral like lanterns drifting in the dark. Some draw close, others recede into unreachable distances. Yet you remain part of the flow, never outside it. This is your place, not fixed, not permanent, but belonging. It is easy to believe that belonging requires roots, a home, a family, a planet beneath your feet. And yes, those matter, for they give shape to your days. But in the cosmic sense, your belonging is more profound. You belong because you are made of the same matter, guided by the same laws, carried by the same expansion. You belong because the universe could not be what it is without the fleeting moment that is you. Think of how the night expands, not with urgency but with patience. There is no rush in dark energy's work. It does not force. It does not push with violence. It simply stretches quietly, invisibly, holding the galaxies apart, as if keeping the stars at a respectful distance. That same patience rests within you. Every pause you take, every gentle exhale, carries the lesson of dark energy. That endurance does not always roar. Sometimes it hums. And what of your thoughts? They too are shaped by the cosmos. Neurons spark with electrical fire, each thought a fleeting flare. In those sparks are echoes of lightning in Earth's skies, echoes of the plasma rivers flowing across the surface of the sun. Even the quiet of your resting mind mirrors the quiet spaces between stars. You are not separate from the universe's structure. You are another layer of it, another reflection of its endless creativity. Consider also the future of the cosmos. Galaxies will drift farther apart until they become unreachable to one another. The night sky billions of years from now will look empty compared to today. The universe may fade into a cold, silent darkness, or it may find new forms, new cycles. But you here in this moment are part of the story before that silence. You are part of the chapter where the stars are still plentiful, where the galaxies still shine,
where the night still hums with possibility. This is your place, not just to exist, but to witness, to note, to rest in the miracle that you are here at all. Let yourself feel the weight of that realization, not as burden, but as comfort, for it means that you are never truly alone. The atoms inside you have been companions of light, of fire, of ancient stars. The silence you hear now has been carried across cosmic distances, through dust and void, until it arrives softly in your ears. The expansion that carries galaxies away also carries you, not apart, but deeper into belonging. You are, in a very real sense, the universe at rest. Close your eyes once more. Feel how the bed beneath you holds you the way gravity holds planets to stars. Feel how your breath expands and contracts, like a miniature cosmos, a rhythm, echoing eternity. Feel how your thoughts drift like comets, briefly shining before fading back into the dark. You are a constellation of processes, all of them ancient, all of them miraculous, all of them quietly tied to the expanding night. And so, when you drift into sleep, you drift not away from the universe, but deeper into it. You return to the rhythm that shaped you. You rest inside the expansion that has always carried you. You do not need to reach for the stars, for they are already within you. The night expands, and you expand with it. The dark energy hums, and you hum with it. The story continues, and you are folded within its page. This is your place, gentle, luminous, infinite. And as you surrender to the quiet, you sense it. The story is not ending, only changing, waiting for another question to unfold in the silence of the night.